Today's Wednesday, March 30th. 89 days into the new year. 275 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. Seriously. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your so humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? That's right. Tonight, we have very special guest, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Richard Dolan is here for night 3 of our secret space program, Breakaway Civilization Week. We worked so hard to get this week put together for everybody. Corey Good, Joseph P. Farrell. Tonight, Richard Dolan. Richard Dolan, practically, I mean, you know, I'm gonna ask him about this tonight. The term breakaway civilization, is that his? He certainly brought it to us, but is that his? And that's why he's here tonight. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. And I want to remind everybody, starting tomorrow, John Rappaport will be here with the premiere of No More Fake Newsroom. That's right. Every Fader night, every Thursday night, he's going to have 30 minutes to bring it. And he's going to kick it off tomorrow night, the big premiere. Very, very excited. And if you haven't seen his page, just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on news. There you go. He's got his own page at jimmychurchradio.com. And I'm very excited, not only about John joining us over here, because he kicks it up a level. You know, this thing that we have built, right? But now, you know, it's like we're legit. I'm serious. You know, you bring in the guy, right? And that's it. Tomorrow night, John Rappaport. Please check out our sponsors on the show. Life Change Tea. It is cold and flu season right now across the United States. And you can order 2 months of super strength tea right now and get a bottle of Moringa for just $5. Use the promo code Jimmy. That's all you have to do. Support the show by supporting yourself, by supporting our sponsors. That's how it works. Go and do it. Ronnie has got one of the great companies out there, getthetea.com. And I take that stuff every single day. I did it today. I did it yesterday. I will do it tomorrow. I feel great. One of the things that I do, I've got a bad habit, but it's not really a bad habit. It's just my schedule. My schedule is live on the radio every single night of the week. Right? If I'm not here, I'm over at Coast. And no time off. But my 5 o'clock, right? You get home, you know, most people work 9 to 5, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, 8 to 6, right? And you get home and that's dinner time for you. And then you relax and watch a little TV, hang out with the family, do your thing, right? But for me, my dinner time is 10 o'clock at night. Right? I wrap up at the studio, we close everything down, we head home, and then that's our dinner time. And that's really, really bad on the system. And which means I hit the hay right after dinner. So just imagine if you got home at 5 o'clock at night, ate dinner at 6, right? Plowed down and had the great meal and stuffed yourself and then just went straight to bed. Well, that's what I do. And it's so bad. But Life Change Tea and the products over at Get the Tea, the colostrum and the moringa and everything that I take from them, have straightened me out because I was getting really, really bad, really run down. Now I feel great. Now I feel like it's okay to eat at 11 o'clock at night and go to bed. I can handle it. The new Studio Dome surround sound system, by the way, I got a phone call today. This is no joke. Got a phone call today from Studio Dome. And they're thanking you, the Fade or Not audience. All of you, thanking you. And I spent quite a bit of time with them on the phone today. And they are just so thankful. And that Fade or Not special, seriously. Now, this is the thing. So many of you have ordered these systems, right? The SBB2 systems. I cannot wait. So when you get them, right? When you get them, not only post some pictures, but tell everybody in Twitter and stuff. And I'll read your emails on the air. What do you think about that system? Because it's amazing. It's amazing. And I was saying last night, and it's true, too. You've got a full stereo system, true wireless stereo for the back patio when you're cooking out or you go to the park. You take your Van Halen with you, your Led Zeppelin, your Black Sabbath, your Judas Priest. Take it with you. Go to the beach. You've got a full stereo. It's crazy, and it sounds amazing. It really, really does. Absolutely sounds amazing. $129, full, true wireless Bluetooth system. In a hard shell case. And that's the whole point. It's portable. You can take it anywhere. Just use the promo code JCRTWS. Free shipping, $129. You can't beat it. It's the best deal anywhere. Seriously. Go Beckley Teppy on that one, man. All right. Let's get this show cracking. I'm so ready. Our full summer schedule is posted at jimmychurchradio.com. All of the conferences that we will be attending. The next one up is the New Living Expo, April 29th, up in San Mateo, California, San Francisco, just south of the airport. Stephen Greer, Nassim Harriman, Greg Braden, Scott Walter. Scott Walter is going to be with us this coming Monday, by the way, on Fade to Black. And just a great Mike Barra is going to be there, Laura Eisenhower, Danian Brinkley. Oh, Danian called the other day and said, Church, what a show. What great feedback. I said, yeah, that's what happens. You know, it's pretty cool. And Fade to Blog, by the way, if you go to the Fade to Blog page, and I was there today reading everybody's stuff. If you want to write for us, the links are there. You can write to Rita. You can also write to Drew the Geek. And the links are on Fade to Blog. And anyway, go to Fade to Blog. If you haven't been there at jimmychurchradio.com, go and just check out the Fade or Nots. Go and do it. It's absolutely some of the best stuff on the net, and we have it over at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get the show cracking because today, Eric Clapton is 71. Slow hand. MC Hammer is 54. Warren Beatty is 79. Don't hold anything against Warren. I was thinking about this today, Warren Beatty. Ishtar, right? I watched Ishtar a couple of weeks ago and with Dustin Hoffman. And as bad as that movie is, it's so bad, it's good. Bugsy, oh, God, so awful. Bulworth, I get it. But he does make up for it with Heaven Can Wait and Bonnie and Clyde. Warren Beatty, 79 years old. Ishtar. Oh, man. Quite possibly the worst movie ever made. So bad, it's truly good. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, Facebook, YouTube. You know what to do. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. All right. Tonight, Richard Dolan. We've Breakaway Civilization Week, Secret Space Program. We're going to be taking calls tonight. We've had Corey Good, Joseph P. Farrell, and tonight, Richard Dolan. On this day in history, in 1981, on March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan is shot. You remember that? Shot in the chest outside of a hotel by John Hinckley Jr. And the thing that we always do, we remember where we were. And this is the trippy thing about that. It was spring break, 1981. I was a senior in high school, and I went down to Florida, to Fort Lauderdale, for a spring break my senior year with Walt Justice, a friend of mine in Indianapolis. His parents had a house down there. So we go to spring break, and I remember coming in from outside at his house, and the TV's on, and there it was, live on television. It's like, really? I remember that day. I remember just sitting there watching the news reports during spring break down in Fort Lauderdale. Fader fact, empty homes outnumber the homeless 6-1 in the United States. Now, I'm going to repeat that. Empty homes outnumber the homeless 6-1 in the United States. Makes you think, doesn't it? You know what to do. All right. Now, tonight is our third installment of the Secret Space Program, Breakaway Civilizations Week. And what have we learned so far? What have we learned? We all come to fade to black to get an education, get a degree, right? That's what we do here. What have we learned this week? Well, one of the things that I have tried to drive home for you is the money. Because if we're talking about a breakaway civilization and a secret space program, it's extensive, it's huge, it's staffed, and it's funded. And there's a lot of money out there that would be needed to support these programs, both off-world and on-world and underground. And not only that, but you have to keep it secret. But you have to fund it. And I talk so much about Rumsfeld. We're going to talk to Dolan about this tonight. His famous statement back on September 10th, 2001, about the $2.3 trillion that was missing, right? It's a lot of bread. And back then, the Department of Defense and the Pentagon was running that military budget, was running in the $300 billion range, give or take a few $1 billion. It's a lot of money. So every 3 years at the 2001 level, you're talking about $1 trillion, right? 300 billion. And now today the number is closer to 600 billion. Last year it was $585 billion, plus or minus. And there's other dollars that are not part of that funding as well. But anyway, I digress. I have gone through this past week looking at the Pentagon and the military in general, their budgets, and some of the outside agencies that have been trying to audit and account for money, right? And the numbers that I have come up with are crazy. Crazy. And right now, since 2001, and don't quote me on this, don't hold me to this, because it's missing money and it's hard to chase down. But right now, I've tallied around 8 to 8.5, 8.6 trillion dollars that is unaccounted for. That's a lot of money. $8 trillion is the value of China. Okay? $8 trillion. Now, is it accurate? You know what? It doesn't even matter. Why? Check this out. Congress passed a law in 2009 requiring that the Defense Department be audit ready by 2017. Now, what does that mean? I know what you're saying. Church, I don't get it. Stay with me. Check this out. Seriously. The Department of Defense is the only agency that doesn't get audited. That's right. There is zero accountability for the Department of Defense. That statement, that in it of itself, is one of the scariest things that I can say to you. No audits. Which means if there is anything that is not accounted for or is not accurate, nobody can say anything. Nobody does. They're supposed to be audit ready by 2017. This is what the big deal is. I have gone through and looked at so many different reports and things that are screwed up. $90 billion here, $5 billion here, $20 billion here, mistakes. Okay, well, we'll do a correction on this, and we'll continue to process our paperwork, and we'll fill in the blanks, and then we'll worry about this later. We'll worry about it later. We'll pick this up next year. We'll fix it whenever. And it starts to add up to huge numbers, humongous numbers. So when I think about and contemplate and present to you a secret space program or a breakaway civilization, not only is the money there to fund it, but there's no accountability for it. Congress doesn't know. Congress simply does not know. All they do is they get an annual budget of $585 billion, whatever the number is this year for 2017. I don't know. It's not announced yet. And that number's there, and they just sign it off and go. The paperwork for the Pentagon, if you think about this, is miles deep. It's insane. So things just get pushed through. And money is spent, and nobody cares, and they just move on. Right now, the numbers right now, since 2001, actually, if you push it back to 1996, but 2001, we're talking about $21 trillion that has been funneled through the Department of Defense, and out of that, 13 trillion, 14 trillion is what is on the books, but it hasn't been audited, and nobody knows where the money has been spent. And then you have this extra cash on the side that is mistakes, or they don't know what the money is for, and they can't account for it. It's a ridiculous amount of money. Now, we're going to talk about this tonight with Richard. The breakaway civilization and the idea behind it, and going back to the early 1970s, where the Alternative 3 and so forth, the ideas for this were started to be presented. And then going back before that, this is something that Peter Levenda has spent a lot of time talking about, the secret space program. And the definitions of this, because the definition of a secret space program, you can look at it in different scenarios. The Levenda version of a secret space program is how Operation Paperclip and von Braun were deliberately sabotaging our space program so the Soviets could push ahead. I mean, that's part of his scenario that was running in the background, and something that we were fighting and working against all the time, and couldn't figure out why we couldn't make progress. Well, that's part of it, and there's money to be accounted for there. And then there's the idea that the Apollo missions going to the moon weren't real, and that we had another space program that was running behind that, setting up moon bases with with the Soviets and Mars at the same time, and that Apollo was a front. And then we have the third secret space program scenario, which is that we have got off-world technology that we have been using for a long time and going way out into space with lots of people with military intentions. There's that. And then we have the breakaway civilization part of this scenario that would need to be funded, where our best and our brightest are out working on stuff that don't have anything to do with us that we see today. And they're out there working on off-world, on things that we don't know about. Why? Because when we look at the ideas of the New World Order and the cabal and the Illuminati and big banks and big money, what is the actual intention of all of that? What is it? Well, if you really think about it, they don't need 90% of the world's population. They don't need it. They don't need it. It's excess. It's waste for them to live the life that they want to live. They could still make their yachts, and they could still make, keep a certain amount of the population there so they can drive their Ferraris and eat the good food and live in the nice places. Right? Well, they don't want to be here. And that is something that is being funded on the backside in an open type of economy that we don't know anything about, and budgets. That's right, I said open. We're going to talk to Dolan about this. It's crazy. The money has gone somewhere. All right, let's check this out. I'm going to get Richard in here in just a second. But this news broke today, and it's a crazy story. And I think we might have it over at on our Facebook page. But a new academic article in a German journal alleges that the U.S.-based newswire agency Associated Press cooperated with Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime. The AP said today that the article focused on a subsidiary photo agency that was employed by them, and that now it is reviewing its own documents. The article by historian Harriet Scharnberg said that the AP supplied American newspapers with materials made by the Nazi propaganda ministry. While other news agencies were banned, the AP continued working in Germany until the U.S. entered the war in 1941. Scharnberg's article said that the AP signed an editor's law agreement promising not to publish materials that would, and I'm quoting here, weaken the strength of the Reich abroad or at home, end quote. Another name for the Nazi regime, obviously. The agreement meant that AP hired reporters who were also employed by the Nazis' propaganda ministry and allowed the regime to use its photographs in propaganda materials, including several anti-Semitic ones. Now, AP photographer Franz Roth was a member of the Nazis' propaganda division. His photographers were removed from the AP's website today after the publication of Scharnberg's article. Very, very interesting. The AP. No joke. All right, really quick. Reporters from Fairfax Media and the Huffington Post obtained a trove of email from Unaoil. Have you heard of Unaoil? Of course you haven't. Because it's a business run by a rich Monaco family. And the emails reveal that the family ran a corrupt bribery empire that spanned the world's oil-producing states. And that the world was, they ran with companies like Rolls-Royce, Halliburton, Leighton Holding, Samsung, and Hyundai. all to rig contracts through a system of bribes and kickbacks that looted the national treasuries of some of the world's poorest countries. Also, Unaoil ran bribery rings in Iran, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates, with massive bribes being paid directly to the senior bureaucrats and elected leaders of those countries. The first installment of this report was released today. It's insane. More on this tomorrow night. Got to get Rappaport on this. In case you missed it, the largest planet in our solar system was struck by a foreign object. You got to check out the video. Go to Jimmy Church Radio over on Facebook. We have the video posted there. It might even be on my personal page. Videos emerged this week of an object apparently hitting Jupiter. The footage shows a quick flash on the right side of the planet as something makes impact. You have to check out the video, and it's nuts. Amateur astronomer Gerrit Kernbauer from Modeling, Austria, said he documented the incident on March 17th while observing the planet with a telescope. He posted the video on YouTube. It's got millions of views right now. And when you watch the video, the explosion, the impact, when you know how big Jupiter is and you look at this impact and what happens, it's got to be like 100 Earths. I'm serious. It's huge. It's dramatic. And it was caught by an amateur with his telescope. You've got to check out the video. It's absolutely insane. All right, I'm out of here. When I come back, Richard Dolan is here. Night 3 of our Breakaway Civilization Secret Space Program week. Closing it out with the best, aren't we? Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Right after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'll be right back. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously. Give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, lime scale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Night 3 of our Breakaway Civilization Secret Space Program week. We saved the best for last. Richard Bleepin Dolan. He's one of the world's leading researchers and writers on the subject of UFOs and believes that they constitute the greatest mystery of our time. Richard completed his graduate work at the University of Rochester, where he studied U.S. Cold War strategy, European history, and international diplomacy. Before that, he had studied at Alfred University and Oxford University and had been a finalist for a Rhodes Scholarship. He is the author of UFOs in the National Security State 1 and 2. He co-authored with Bryce Zabel, of course, AD After Disclosure. And his latest book is UFOs and the 21st Century Mind. He hosts The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA Radio and is a frequent guest on both Coast to Coast AM and Fade to Black. He is currently featured on several television series and documentaries, including, of course, Ancient Aliens, Hangar 1 last year with me, and Close Encounters. In addition to his research, his company, Richard Dolan Press, actively publishes innovative books by authors from all around the world. His website is richarddolanpress.com. I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black our good friend, Richard Bleepin Dolan. Good evening.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for the intro. Nice to be on here again.
Yeah, man. It's good to have you back. And like I said, we saved the best for last. It's been a great week on the show. And you know what's funny, Richard, is both with Corey and Joseph P. Farrell last night, you were quoted all week long, and I'm just glad that you're in here on the third night and to help me clean up this mess, because it's
I wondered why my ears were burning. There we go.
Well, you know, because it's a real big deal, you know, and not only is it a big subject, you know, breakaway civilizations and the secret space program, but it's also big money. And we're going to talk about that tonight. Yeah, but But before we do, I got to ask you the question. What was the last song you listened to today in your car?
I didn't listen to any songs in my car, but I did listen to songs this afternoon in my living room. So let's see, the last one. I had this like Daft Punk.
Shut up.
No, I'm serious. So that's that name? They had a couple of big hits.
Yeah.
I had a couple of them on. I had Daft Punk on.
See,
I like them.
I think you're making it up.
No, I'm not.
You just want to be cool.
I do want it so desperately. Do I want to be? But I think they got two songs. I don't know. It's two songs. I obviously don't know them that well, but yes, I had them on.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Last.
There you go.
I was putting shelves up in my living room, and I had Daft Punk on.
Oh, man. There's a good joke in here. I'm just going to let it go. There's a really good one. Now, let's kind of start here. You and I today, we had a long conversation on the phone, and I will say this. to the audience that Richard was getting more and more pissed off today.
I get rage.
Yeah, and you were right there today, man. We went to the edge of the cliff and took a peek today, no doubt, in that conversation. And it always comes down to money. And when you and I were talking about military budgets and the secret space program, breakaway civilizations, and this missing money is getting so large and so out of control with no accountability. It is completely out of control, and there is nobody. I think you were even surprised a little bit when I said, well, you weren't surprised, but you were surprised about the law that Congress passed in 2009 that said,
yeah, I was.
They need to be ready for an audit in 2017. And your answer was, I'm going to say it for you, and then I want you to expand on that. You said, yeah, like that's going to happen. Right? And that's exactly where it's at. Does anybody really expect the Pentagon to open up their books to an audit?
No, this is pure public relations. It can never happen. I'm reminded, and I got worked up in our conversation privately, but this has been happening to me more and more. I think, the further down this path of mine that I go, the less and less I really care about holding back and even being polite. And I just get angry, and honestly, I don't care anymore. Regarding the Pentagon and this phony baloney audit that Congress says they're going to do, which will never happen. I'm reminded of my many conversations with Catherine Austin Fitts, whom I adore and who I also look up to in so many ways. But she talked about her experience 25 plus years ago in the Bush senior administration. She was the second in charge of housing and urban development there. And she, being a financial expert back then as well as she is now, as this number 2 person at HUD, said, I want to look at the financial records. And they said, you don't have a need to know. And she said, excuse me. She had to twist arms, fight whoever she had to fight. She finally won her battle. And she said they wheeled in, the old library carts. They still have them, I guess, with, they carry all the books on. They said they wheeled in library cart after library cart after library cart of stacks of paper, totally disorganized, absolute god-awful mess. And they said, here's our records. And she's thinking, how am I supposed to audit this department? How can anyone audit this department? And she said at that moment, she realized that this department is literally impossible to audit. And that was just HUD. That's just housing and urban development. That's not the Pentagon.
Right.
With a budget of tiny fraction of what the Pentagon has. So, our government, and her assessment, by the way, was at 90%. I think she said 90% of the U.S. government is literally unauditable, essentially like God himself could not audit the federal government because it's designed like it is not possible to do so. So when we're hearing all of this nonsense about Congress saying, oh, we're going to audit the Pentagon, are you kidding me? Honestly. What kind of a joke? This is purely public relations, purely to make the public think that they've got a government that's in control of itself, and it absolutely is not.
The numbers, as we start to throw these around, when we think about something in these terms, that we have a discretionary budget that we use and we have a mandatory budget
that's right.
that we use.
Exactly.
And the total is, it's just, they throw these numbers around, $2.5 trillion, right? $2.5 trillion. And then it's the mistakes on the backside of that where they just ignore it. We'll worry about that next year. Let's balance the books now.
We've moved into a command economy. It's the most ironic thing.
Right.
When most of us listening were little kids, if they remembered the Cold War and if they studied any kind of history and politics, everyone was taught. From the word go when you went to school, that the Soviet Union, the Russians, the communists had a command economy in which the central authority determined everything that would happen. And that the United States and the Western nations, by contrast, had a free economy in which the people made determinations about how things were going to be spent and so forth. And when you really think about where we've gone now, and now we're in 2016, we have a command economy. When we're spending literally trillions of dollars every year going to the government allocates it for whatever they do. I mean, it may not be exactly the same order of magnitude that the Soviets had yet. We're getting there, but it is absolutely a long way down the road toward that. We've totally transformed what we're supposed to be.
Why, when somebody says to you, especially when they're talking about a breakaway civilization or a secret space program and how that can possibly be done and funded, and you start to look at numbers, how do you respond to that? I mean,
yeah. Well, you have to go by degrees, because the idea of a secret space program is it's a lot for the uninitiated to handle. I mean, this is really the fact of the matter. And all of us who study the phenomenon that we call UFOs or UAP, as Hillary Clinton mentioned the other night on Jimmy Kimmel, right? Mm-hmm. Any of us who've been studying this phenomenon for a long time, we have to remind ourselves that most people, they have not studied this. They're not on board with it. It's difficult. Particularly if you're well educated or think you're well educated, you've been in the university world, you've been in the somehow you've been successful, so you're less inclined to challenge yourself, I think. And those individuals often think, this has to be nonsense because I would have learned about it by now. So we have many hurdles to overcome when we talk about this subject. What I would remind individuals is that let's start with the UFO phenomenon first. And by that simply, to point out that the UFO phenomenon is confirmable on a variety of levels, but certainly through declassified military documents from the United States and from the United Kingdom. Most recently, the now infamous Condign report, which our colleague John Burroughs has really done heroic work in fleshing out and pointing out to people just why that's so important. But the fact is, we have a long trail of military documents that absolutely prove, they don't hint, they don't suggest, they prove that there is an unexplained phenomenon that has engaged our military and other militaries for many years now, that has gotten our military very concerned about for many years, that has exhibited an apparent interest in our nuclear technology, that has triggered airspace violations and attempted intercepts. All of this has happened since the 40s, and it has gone into the 21st century. That's not arguable. That you can take to the bank, and if someone were to take me on NBC or Fox News or NPR, I could say that with confidence. So there's something going on. On top of that, we have a series of additional confirmed statements that have described high levels of concern about this. We've had, the statement of the deceased Senator Barry Goldwater, for example, who talked about his knowledge and his failed attempts to get at the inner secrets. We have statements by the head of Skunk Works, Ben Rich, who talked about we now have the technology to take ET home, talking about it's time to end all the secrecy on UFOs. This is in the 1990s. And then the Area 51 leaks that have come out. And there's been a lot of these statements by the late astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, my friend and friend of many of us in this field, who spoke explicitly about his confirmed knowledge of alien bodies, alien technology being studied in deep secrecy, and much, much more. So we have that. So we have this phenomenon, this thing that is real. On top of that, we have anomalies, serious anomalies that have been recorded in Earth's orbit and beyond Earth's orbit. And by beyond, I'm talking about the moon and who knows how far out, but certainly the moon. So there's something significant that has been unexplained. I've written about a lot of these in particularly my two histories of UFOs in the national security state. But also in my last book, UFOs for the 21st Century Mind, I've got a few of these cases. So there's that happening. On top of that, so now let's just do a little bit of logical induction here and deduction.
A deduction, right.
We have a phenomenon, right. We have a phenomenon that is also in space, and we know from this phenomenon that secrecy is paramount to this. So if there's a phenomenon in space and we're running the secrecy, clearly, if we're not responsible for that phenomenon in space, we're going to want to study it, and we will want to do that in secrecy. So we would require, ipso facto, a secret space program, if for that reason, if for no other. If on top of that, however, we have, as the strongly indicated leaks show us, acquired exotic technology to study, to make secret advances on in terms of propulsion, in terms of energy, in terms of other types of materials science? Would we not try to replicate what they have? And the answer to that is yes. That's exactly, I think, what we've been doing since the 1940s, trying to replicate that to a greater or lesser extent. And if we can develop a craft that can take us off-world, would we therefore go out into space? And I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. So that would be an even more significant secret space program. We have leaks by people like Gary McKinnon, who talked about what he found when he was able to get access illegally, but nonetheless he did, to U.S. Space Command website, and after which the U.S. government tried to persecute him for 10 years and try to extradite him and destroy his life. So we have all of that. And then we have the case, as you were just talking about a moment ago, the missing money. Billions and really trillions, it seems to be, of dollars that are not accounted for in the black hole of the global financial system and of the United States financial system. So, and then you have quiet discussions. I myself have had quiet discussions with a few people, not many, a couple, who have talked about not just Edgar Mitchell saying this, but another senior government scientist that I did speak to confirmed to me, and this is a prominent man, the existence of alien technology and, quote, at least one body that he said to me that he personally knew about at deep levels of secrecy. He said, this is so secret, even you who study this would be amazed at how classified, how compartmented this is. I recall a conversation, this is secondhand coming to me, but again, from a source that I know is very reliable, this is from the late 1990s, an interview with a 4-star retired general, former Joint Chiefs of Staff, who confirmed, this is in the 1990s, an MJ-12 type of group that operated internationally, said that it was private, and that it worked beyond standard government controls. Kind of what you'd get on like the old X-Files, the kind of international cabal. Right. And that was what this particular general, 4-star, confirmed to an associate of mine. So there's a lot of this going on. There's something very, very big. A system of runaway secrecy has emerged out of it with lots and lots of missing money. I don't know if earlier in the program tonight you mentioned the Rumsfeld quote from 2001. That's classic at this point. Shortly before 9/11, he talked about $2.3 trillion that were unaccounted for by the Pentagon. Now, keep in mind, in 2001, George W. Bush's administration was still new, and they had just come in after Clinton. So Rumsfeld, in saying what he did, was implicitly, I think you could say, going after the previous Clinton administration and just saying, look at this mess we've inherited. But he did say $2.3 trillion. And, when you consider that the Pentagon's budget for fiscal year 2001 was $310 billion, it's like 1/7, 1/8 the amount that he's talking about. And the mind reels. How do you lose track of 7 or 8 times your annual budget? I still can't get that.
And the interesting thing, and I want you to stay on track here, but the interesting thing also about that, at that time, and we can go back and look at this historically, but I believe Clinton handed off a balanced budget to the Bush administration. And so
last couple of years of his administration, I think he played some games with, trying to remember the details, Social Security, is it, or did something. The U.S. economy was in a relatively better shape. It's true, but I think there was some shenanigans with the accounting.
Yeah,
I can't really tell you the exact.
Compared to where we are now. So anyway, but handing off a balanced
we hadn't
budget.
Completely disemboweled our manufacturing infrastructure. We were in the process. It was really from Bush Sr. through Clinton, through Bush Jr., through Obama has been a completely consistent policy in that.
And so when and that's why the $2.whatever trillion is even more of a significant issue if you were dealing with the balanced budget. They didn't have, debt or going backwards of $2 or $3 trillion or $100 billion. It was basically, clean books, and clean books with $2.5 trillion missing.
Yeah, well, with the United States by the late 90s, you have to remember, this is when the U.S. still had Russia under its boot. Russia was under Yeltsin back then, totally incompetent leadership, and the U.S. was just pillaging Russia dry. That whole nation was a fire sale at the time until Putin stopped it in 99. So the United States in the 1990s just assumed that it was one big party and they could just essentially pillage at will in a unipolar world. And I think that informed a lot of the attitude, to be perfectly honest with you. The U.S. was able for a little while, by virtue of its position dominating the global financial system, by virtue of the petrodollar and all of that. It was like the great American party. I didn't really get to participate too much in that party, but it did happen, and there were people at the very top of our food chain who certainly benefited a lot from it.
What would be wrong with disclosing that we've been running a secret space program, we've been funding it with these dollars, and actually being honest with the American public?
It would be a radical thing in one sense. It would be an admission that this whole thing that we call a democracy and a republic has been a total sham. I guess that would be the first thing that I would think of. I mean, think about it. You know, you've got this massively expensive program that I didn't authorize it. You didn't authorize it. No one in Congress that I know of authorized it. That basically is a government within a government, has its own law, its own civilization. Really, and we're just going to say, oh yeah, well, we don't really have a democracy anymore, so the hell with that. So that's one problem right there. Another problem is that there are going to be people, I'll be one of them, to be honest with you, who's going to make a few demands here. And I'm sure people more powerful than me will also say, how the hell have you hidden this from the public all these years? What have you done to undermine our entire system? How much of this has been illegal? Let's take a look now. And what about all these other rumors? If this is true, then what does this say about the rumors of underground bases? Or what does this say about the rumors of reverse engineered alien technology? If you have a secret space program, why do you have a secret space program? I mean, this opens up the entire UFO subject, and I'm still not convinced that this is going to be a possibility or an easy game for the decision makers to be able to talk about publicly. I just don't think so.
Well, when we have the situation of the Apollo program ending, the space shuttle program starting and now is gone, and we haven't made the progress in space that we were promised, throughout the 50s and 60s, and all of that is gone.
Yeah, but here's what we have to remember. For the United States military, space is absolutely the essential platform, the field of operations. Not the ground, not the water, but space. In other words, if you don't control space, you are not a world power. So it's ipso facto. They must control space as a theater of operation, and they do. And if they don't, then the U.S. is really all those great smart bombs that we supposedly have, and all the great stealth bombers and all the fighter jets that hit their target with exact precision. Without dominating space, none of that works. So for the United States military, space is not a negotiable item. Just like with Russia, Crimea was not. Yeah, that's their issue. But for the United States, space is not negotiable, so they must have it. So think about it.
Richard, let me jump in. That's exactly my point.
Right.
That's it. Why, just coming forward and saying, look, okay, yes, we have been militarizing space. We have been moving forward here. We have a space program. We are not just the backwards part of the space program that you think we are.
Well, what if they open that up? How much are they going to be able to tell? Will they say that they have an alien reproduction vehicle, as many of us believe, back to the 1980s or earlier?
And what's wrong with that?
Well, nothing. I mean, for you and me, that'd be awesome. That would be great.
Right.
I would love for that to be out there. Are you kidding me? The one question would be, what powers that alien reproduction vehicle, guys? Is it zero-point energy? That's nifty. How come we haven't really had that out in the world for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, or however long you've had it? And if we have it now, wouldn't that be great? Bye-bye petroleum as the foundation for your global infrastructure. And with the dissolution of the petroleum-based global financial system, you see everything start to unravel. The whole system of power as it exists in the world today becomes obsolete. Saudi Arabia becomes obsolete. I would love to see that. A tyrannical, monstrous regime like Saudi Arabia, sure. But the U.S. petrodollar system becomes obsolete as well. And more importantly even than that, so in other words, without the petrodollar system, every single motivation for U.S. foreign policy goes out the window, which I would love to see that. But the problem would be if there's something like free energy, let's just say that there's some kind of energy breakthrough that exists within that world, the black world, the secret world. If that exists, then that means you will have access to free energy. That means I will have access to free energy. That means you go off the grid. You say, up yours, utility company. That would be nice. I would say the same. And suddenly, everyone in the world would have a level of independence from their political authorities, it seems to me anyway, that doesn't quite exist. Because if you have energy independence, you have a lot more leeway suddenly than you've ever had before, because with your own free energy, you might be able then to generate an unlimited amount of your own 3D printed objects. You really might not need to work. You get access to food. Food would be one issue that might still be resolved. But with free energy, even that could probably be resolved. You probably have farming techniques, food techniques. Who knows? Free energy revolutionizes everything. And the whole global system that we have now goes away almost with the snap of a finger. And how can anyone think that, whether it's Hillary Clinton or any other of these political clones, are going just to say, oh yeah, we're just going to give up the secret?
Well, then there were the reports that started to come out a couple of days ago. International Business Times and a couple of other news outlets were reporting about how the Rockefellers were backing out of ExxonMobil.
I saw the headline. I should have read that article.
And that, what is it? I mean, for them to give that up. Now, I don't know how far this is going, but is it because they've figured out a way to monetize another type of energy? That's how I read into it.
Yeah. It seems to me that, right, the key for any of these people at the top of our pyramid, they have to know just as well as we do that the petroleum-based global infrastructure has a limited time frame. This cannot go forever. No matter how you think about oil generation, whether it's the abiotic theory or not, really doesn't matter, because
well, let me jump in right here. Let's we're at a hard break, so let's do that now, and we'll pick that up on the backside. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan. Night 3 of our Breakaway Civilization Secret Space Program Week, right here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. More with Richard Bleepin' Dolan when I come back. Stay right there.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
Hey folks, Life Change Tea here, reminding you that colds and flus suck. Feeling lousy sucks, and allergies really can be annoying. What if you could change that? What if you could drink something that changed the sick and tired scenario? Well, you can change how you feel with a little help from Life Change Tea. Life Change Tea is a drink you make, you control, and you drink. There are 8 organic herbs that blend together and give you what you need to fight the flus and colds of this world. Less sickness is more relief. Life Change Tea can help with high blood pressure, constipation, high cholesterol, and much, much more just by drinking the tea. Read the numerous testimonies at getthetea.com. If you're tired of feeling lousy, order right now at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-04 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. If you've heard this commercial more than once and someone's trying to tell you something, it's time to get well. GetTheT.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Night 3 of our Breakaway Civilization Secret Space Program week here. Corey Good, Joseph P. Farrell, tonight Richard Dolan. And Richard, when the term Breakaway Civilization, I kind of mentioned this at the front of the show, you brought the term certainly to the front of the conversation. Where did that term come from, and did you have a reference to it beforehand, before you started to write about it?
Yeah, the term, I coined that term, I think in 2008 when I was in the home stretch of writing my second volume of UFOs and the National Security State. And that book was published in 2009. I used it, so that was the first time it appeared anywhere. I thought of it in when I was looking into, I had one chapter, the final chapter of that book, where I actually took a big section out of it to do an analysis, as I saw it at that moment, of the structure of UFO secrecy. And so, just getting into the secrecy and thinking about how the black budget world was clearly working on technology that was well ahead of the rest of the world in many regards, and with levels of secrecy that really was so separate. And at the same time, I was also reading, I don't always read UFO literature. I was reading a condensed single volume by Arnold Toynbee, who's one of the greatest historians of the 20th century. Toynbee had done a multi-volume, massive history of called, I think, A Study of Civilizations. And his theory was that there had been a certain well-defined number of genuine human civilizations that have existed on this planet. And what Toynbee did, this is back in the mid-20th century, was to try to define the qualities that what constituted a distinct civilization. And he's kind of a dry writer at times, but he was a true genius. And I was reading Toynbee in 07, 08 while I was writing my book. And that really actually helped me start thinking, like, what is it that constitutes a distinct civilization in our own era? You know, we have this idea, particularly in the 21st century, that all of the regions of the world are becoming one civilization, like a globalization. You know, whereas in the past there was the Far East and there was Mesoamerica and there was Europe and so forth. And what we've seen in the last 500 years, it's true, is a kind of continual melding and connection of all the different groups on the planet toward a kind of global system. But it occurred to me, you know, is it possible that there could be segments of of human society that could break from that trend and actually go off on their own? And it also occurred to me that we sort of had that in our own lifetime, the example of the Cold War, in which American science and Soviet science did not share information with each other, not all the time. They had secrets, major secrets. They had major secret infrastructures that were distinct from each other. And it was a huge industry trying to find out what the other guy was doing. And so it occurred to me that wouldn't say that the Soviet Union was a completely separate civilization, but they were moving in a direction where they and we were quite separate in certain ways. So it does seem to me that it is entirely possible for secret organizations to develop their own capability, their own understanding of reality, their own technology, and keep that from the rest of us. And that was literally, I had like this moment, this flash, I suppose, in which I thought, oh, wow, so this would be a civilization that's broken away from our own. And I just thought that's a breakaway civilization. And I use that phrase in my book. And what I was actually surprised by is within a couple of years, I started seeing other people really using that. Joseph Farrell in particular, number of other researchers and writers have then started taking. Now I hear Alex Jones talk about it all the time on his radio show, and it's pretty much everywhere.
Now, there is, and I want to also define two different scenarios here. We certainly have the off-world breakaway civilization scenario, and then we have the underground, you know, here that we wouldn't see. And I make reference to that because when we talk about these huge dollars, right, these humongous dollars, and if we just took a portion of this idea, $1 trillion, let's just pull a round number out, $1 trillion. What could you do if you were a breakaway civilization with $1 trillion? You could do a whole hell of a lot.
Clearly, you could do a lot, yeah.
Yes.
I want to emphasize, you know, when I developed this idea, and I at that time and still today, I continue to look at it as a probable, but still as a hypothetical scenario. And I'm not willing, even right now, not in 2016, I'm not willing to say that this is absolutely the case. I don't treat it as fact. I treat it as the best working theory of what is going on. And I think that there is a breakaway civilization, but I'm not someone who is even now yet willing to go out there and say, I know for a fact. I'm willing to say I know for a fact that there is interest by the U.S. government on the far side of the moon. And I'm willing to say I know for a fact that there is interest by the U.S. government or the Intel, the National Security Group, in what's going on in space. And I believe that there is a significant infrastructure that deals with it. And that's the same applies for under the ground. But in terms of some of these specifics, I'm just going to put myself on the record and say of the many, many claims that have come out over the past several years, and this includes that of Corey Goode, I am not willing to say, yes, I know that that's true. I'm just not. I need, for me to accept a alleged whistleblower, I need first and foremost to be able to know who they are, to be able to vet their credentials. I need to be, if I can't do that, then I'd like to find out who their family is. I'd like there to be some due diligence to investigate these individuals. There have been many of them. And, a lot of these stories seem self-contradictory to me and contradictory with each other. I don't think that they all can be true. So the question is, what is going? It's almost like channeled information. I can't. If you were to believe every single channeled piece of information that came to you, you'd be a very confused person. Mm-hmm. And so the question comes down to, how do I vet these individuals? How do I know that this is true and not just some piece of disinformation? And we have to be upfront about this, Jimmy. All right. In the UFO field, we are subject to disinformation. And we know this happened confirmably back in the 1970s and 80s. For sure, we know. Mm-hmm. We've had a number of other individuals who've come to me who've talked about their connections with Intel and confirmation that the U.S. intelligence community is still very interested in monitoring the UFO group. We have had statements by, nefarious, evil individuals like Cass Sunstein of the Obama administration, one of the leading lawyers in the country, who talked about using explicit tactics to infiltrate dissident groups in the United States. Well, what the hell do you think the UFO community is? We're a dissident group. So what we have to understand is that there are undoubtedly going to be attempts by intelligence to steer good researchers away from genuine areas that are important. And if I were one of these evil intelligence guys, one of the first things I would do would be to have a series of whistleblowers putting information out there that can never be confirmed, that would cause researchers to run around in circles thinking, oh my God, now what do we do? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if there's a genuine secret space program, which I believe there is, that doesn't mean that I think that there are blue avians on Mars. All right. That doesn't, and I'm just going to say this, all right. That doesn't mean that I think that there are reptilians that I've been having battles with for 17 years to preserve civilization. I mean, this is stuff out of sci-fi movies, bad ones at that. And so if I'm going to believe this, I personally need something a little bit more than a good story.
And
my dad,
what's interesting,
said money talks, BS walks.
Right. And what you just said is very interesting. And I'm going to throw this right back at you, Richard. The dark side of the moon, right? The stuff that's going on Mars, a secret space program, is a bad sci-fi movie. That it is science fiction. It is exactly what you're saying on all levels. So that's the other part. It baffles me too as well. When we look at some guy like Richard Doty, and we know as fact what the things that he had did, horrific, bad scenarios, and Bill Moore, and what the UFO community went through there. Is there evidence of disinfo? Well, that's the best case right there. When you say, "Well, would the government do it?"
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
and keeping in mind though, and I really want to make this as clear as well. Like I've never spoken with Doty. I've corresponded with Richard Doty, and I've not communicated with Bill Moore. But disinformation is not the same as lies. And we have to really keep this in mind. This is a complex world out there. This is not a world of black and white.
Right.
There are researchers out there who I honestly think of them, they're like 10-year-old children, and they see no nuance in the world. And they say, oh, everything that Moore said is now BS and is lies, and MJ-12 is a complete fabrication. No, I don't agree. Disinformation is put out there with truth because otherwise no one would believe it, and it would not be effective. You have to have plausibility in your disinfo for it to be of use to anyone. And so relating to some of the Mars stories, for example, I agree, and the moon stories, I agree that as insane as it sounds to me, even now after all these years, it seems crazy that we have secret bases on the moon, but I believe it.
I do too. I really do. I really do. Yes.
Right. And so because I believe it, yes, I'm willing to listen to claims of individuals who state that they've had a connection to it. But the fact is, like one of these people, Andrew Basiago, all right, I'll just mention him by name. And I'm sure he's going to get back to him, and he's going to start another Facebook war with me again. This happened a couple of years ago. And I met Andy, and I honestly, I genuinely like the guy. He's a very nice individual. But the things that he has said about the jump room and working with Barack Obama back in the early 1980s, and then going back to Gettysburg in the 1860s. I mean, sorry. And then here's the picture of me, he says, and these are the shoes I was wearing. And I'm sorry, I don't accept that. And I just don't. And so, and it's not just him. And I have nothing against this man. I truly don't. But when it comes to defending the integrity of this field of study, I have no choice. I have to say what I need to say. And I think that there's something desperately wrong with some of these individuals who come out as so-called whistleblowers. There's something not right about them. I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't get inside all of their heads, but I believe that there's something not right. And if I'm not able to confirm, someone with a connection to Intel once said to me, when you're looking at a story, when the closer you get, and if it changes when you get up close, be careful, there's something wrong. So when you get up close and things aren't quite right. And in this case, when I get up close and I can't confirm who the hell somebody is, there's a problem. I can't get any kind of genuine corroboration. And it doesn't count when a researcher says, well, this story is genuine because I've heard other people tell me something similar, but I can't tell you who these individuals are. Even if you said who these were, still wouldn't matter. If I were an anonymous person and I wanted to wreak havoc on this field, do you know how easy it would be?
Yeah, exactly.
2 months of study to find out what are the current stories about Mars, what are the current things that the UFO people are talking about, and I would just concoct something. And then I would go on one of the people who does all the interviews. I'm not going to mention any by name. And I would get myself out there, and I would be the hot new thing, and I'd go to conferences, and I'd get paid money to have my own little, whatever I do. And I could do it. But I have honesty, and so I would never do that. But I don't know about everyone.
Well, what do we do?
Are they put to it as well is the other thing.
And so we're caught in this crazy paradox in that if you are going to hide a secret space program, if you're going to hide a breakaway civilization, if you're going to hide ET contact and UFOs,
putting phony baloney stories out there so that people go, oh God, not again.
Exactly. So then
hide it.
And we're caught, and it's certainly with the MJ-12 documents, and I'm glad you brought that up. Here we're caught. Some of it, I don't know about all of it, but some of it is probably spot on and accurate and true and actual documents. Some of it is disinfo. Now, if some of it is real, then we've got a real issue here. And that's what's crazy. And then, so now you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. And how do you do that? And if you are going to deflect, and I'm speaking about the DOD, if you are going to deflect, then you are going to do what Richard Doty did. So guys like you and guys like me are nuts. And that's the way that, and what do we do? I mean, I don't know. All I can do is listen to everybody. I have
My personal opinion on Doty, I mean, I think that a lot of people, I have a different take on this. And I'm just going to say, I think the reason Doty got involved in putting some disinfo into the field was because Paul Benowitz, who was monitoring Kirtland Air Force Base in Monsanto, was actually on to genuine, true anomalous activity.
He was on to something, yes.
And it wasn't simply, high tech. The Star. What was it that Greg Bishop wrote about? There were several optical systems arrays that he said that Benowitz was actually looking at. I beg to differ. I think Benowitz was looking at genuine anomalous craft, whether we were making them or not. Doesn't matter. He was onto it. And Doty and his team, and there's real possibility Doty wasn't just Air Force intelligence, but CIA, went in and wreaked havoc on Paul Benowitz's understanding of reality. But that I think Benowitz, I actually believe he was onto something.
And so
that's all just nonsense.
And that's the blend that we're talking about here. So you've got some truth, and then you've got the untruths and the disinfo. And certainly having Benowitz completely lose his mind. This is the thing, and this is what's really harsh, is Benowitz knows he was a sane man. He knows what he saw, right? it's reality to him. Just like a car drives by you outside and it's red, you've just seen a red car, right? And you know that is real. Well, that's what happened to Benowitz. And then he got his mind all twisted up. And when Doty came back at him, and then he found out that there's a possibility here that he's being messed with, moving furniture around at the house.
Yeah, exactly.
To intentionally mess with somebody. Now he doesn't know. And that's the tragic part about all of this, is that Benowitz saw what he saw in a sane sense. And that
if you read Greg Bishop's book on this called Project Beta, which is it's really an important book to read on all of this. He mentioned that during the times that Doty and his team went into Benowitz's house to move furniture around, that they actually had their own anomalous experiences. Now, this is if this is to be believed, including orbs, balls of light being seen. I'm doing this off memory, but I think I'm remembering it accurately. So there were anomalous things that, according to Bishop's tale of it, Doty and his people were experiencing, and that they did not know what these things were. So there is some strangeness. I'm willing to acknowledge that, and there is much more. Like it wasn't simply Benowitz who, in that area at that time, was convinced that there was some serious anomalous activity. There were Air Force officers who were also very much involved in dealing with UFO activity in that area. So, I mean, there was something there that was happening, and the question is, whose technology did it belong to? Maybe Benowitz bumped into the breakaway civilization. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah. I mean, I'm serious. I think that could very well be what happened.
Well, didn't Bishop also say, I'm going off memory here too as well, don't slay me, everybody, but didn't Bishop say that he actually went and saw Benowitz's personal, photograph collection and some video that Benowitz had shot that was absolutely nuts?
I don't want to confirm that either because I can't recall, but that it's totally possible.
Yeah.
I wish Greg was here. We could ask him, but I really don't remember. But it is true that Benowitz, I was able to get a copy of some of Benowitz's personal notes. They were given to me by my friend Ron Regier, who knew Paul. And Ron himself he's a fascinating guy. You could have him on here sometime. He'd make a good interview. Ron worked for an aerospace company called Aerojet, and has been involved in UFO research for many, many years. Anyway, Benowitz's notes included, you'd think I'd remember since I wrote about this. Here's my book. I'll have to pull it. Maybe after the break,
okay.
I'll go back into it. But he had, he was getting audio signals out of Manzano, and also getting what I'm remembering. He was translating what he believed were messages, and he wrote down the messages, and it almost seemed like directions to an alien base. And I asked Ron, I said, well, on what basis did Paul translate these into English? I mean, were they coming as English language messages? And Ron said, I honestly don't know. I don't think anyone knows. But Benowitz was getting signals that he was translating as kind of alien messages. And I think it's probably the part of the disinformation, but they were really doing a number on him.
I want to get back to the dark side of the moon before we get to the break here.
Sure.
The stoppage of Apollo, which didn't make sense. I'll never forget when, I was a kid, and I was so into the space program and everything, and they were like, well, that's it, done. And
right.
I thought, how could they do this? We had promises of these moon bases and the fantastical and that's...
Well, you got your conventional explanation. The conventional explanation is, we just realized, holy smokes, this is impossible to do. I mean, the moon's far away. How are you going to get oxygen up there? How are you going to get an infrastructure? Not an easy... and honestly, if we just go purely on the conventional explanation, it's a desolate rock up there with no atmosphere. What are you going to do? On the moon. Basically, that would be the explanation. And it would be the U.S. saying, well, we're not going to go. Now, on the other side of it, think about this. all through the 50s and 60s, the Russians, the Soviets, were vastly far ahead of the United States in space. Not even close. The Soviets were sending probes up to the moon. We couldn't even get out of Earth orbit. The Russians sent the first creature into space, the first dog, the first man into space. They did the first orbit around the Earth. They did the first everything, the first spacewalk. We were not able to get a successful spacewalk until the final Gemini mission, and just barely got lucked out by the skin of our teeth. The whole Apollo program was flying by the seat of their pants, to be honest with you. The technology, when you look at these lunar modules, and who wrote the book, Wagging the Moon Dog? He was the same guy he just died. I'm a big fan of him, golly. He wrote The Strange But Mostly True Story of Laurel Canyon. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Why? My brain's drawing a blank. He just died. I'm very upset about it. It'll come to me. Dave McGowan.
Yeah, Dave McGowan.
Dave McGowan did a really frighteningly good analysis of the whole U.S. space program, and he didn't just focus on the shadows being in the wrong place and all of it. He did a gestalt, and I have to say it was upsetting to read this because it was much more persuasive than I wanted it to be. And he essentially argued that the space program the U.S. did was it was a total joke and could not have been successful. And I'm not saying every one of his arguments was good, but I have to say a lot of them surely seem good to me. And the articles are still up there, I think, Wagging the Moon Doggy. The point that I'm making is the U.S. space program, in retrospect, really doesn't make any sense, just like you were saying. We come out of nowhere. We're in Earth orbit, just barely able to do it. And then suddenly, boom, the moon a few times. And then, whoop, we're back to Earth orbit for the next 40 plus years. Really? So that's a little odd. And then when you take some of the stories, like the Neil Armstrong story, which I credit. I think this is true. Timothy Good wrote about this, and basically a very close friend of Timothy Good, who's now, this woman has passed away, but she went to a function where Neil Armstrong was present, and she eavesdropped on a conversation where a doctor asked Neil Armstrong the question everyone would want to ask: what really happened on the moon? And she said she heard Neil Armstrong say, "My God, we were being monitored the whole time we were there. Huge craft." He said those babies were huge, and he said they were menacing, and we just got our business done and we took off and we left. And Tim Good wrote about this in Above Top Secret back in the 1980s. I asked Timothy about this a number of years ago, and he confirmed me. He said, this woman, I knew her very well. I would trust my life with her. So that's what you have with Timothy Good's story. It doesn't constitute proof, but I consider it interesting. And there are other stories as well that back in the late 70s, and now we're about to hit break, I suspect, but there is some very interesting information coming from an engineer named Vito Saccheri, who had access to NASA transcripts in 1979 in Houston. He went in with a colleague of his and talked about what he saw, and he seemed credible to me. He saw transcripts talking about seeing Santa Claus coming over the horizon. Santa Claus is a code word for UFO. And, a lot of UFO chat and evidence in these NASA mission transcripts that he had access to briefly.
Well,
yes, I think that there's a...
Let's take that break. Yeah, let's take that break right here, and we'll pick it up on the backside. Richard Dolan is our guest. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Breakaway Civilization Secret Space Program Week, Night 3. More with Richard right after this break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Not being able to fall asleep is so frustrating. The tossing, the turning, the adjustment of pillows and blankets. Ugh! Eventually you just decide to get up and start your day really early. It doesn't have to be this way though. Power Sleep is an all-natural non-prescription formula that will help you sleep like a baby. It contains neurotransmitter nutrients that promote the production of serotonin, which is responsible for feelings of well-being. Power Sleep is easy to digest and absorb and is made in a base of active probiotics. Don't miss another night of sleep. Order your Power Sleep at energywave.com or call 1-800-TURTLE-5. Add Power Vites to your cart while you're browsing. Perfect for Monday mornings. They're a complete multivitamin and mineral formula that will give you the energy you need to get through your day. Nourish your immune system and feel great. Get all the info and place your order at EnergyWave.com. Enter code word SLEEP to get free shipping. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you and Hillary for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan. Night 3 of our secret space program, Breakaway Civilization Week. Nothing like having Richard on the show, by the way. The conversation is always out of control. And Richard, this is the thing. I know that you wrote about a lot of this in AD after disclosure with Bryce, but what do we do? Because now that we have so many people out of Washington, it seems like everybody is freely talking about aliens, and I could not believe Hillary said UAP. That freaked me out of my mind. For her to even have clarity on that says a whole lot. But hold on, let me get to the question.
Yeah,
which is, we know there's ET contact. We know this. Okay, so let's put that aside. We can move that over in one direction. We know that there is got to be a secret space program operating right now. There has to be. There's no way that there is not. Especially with the United States Navy and the United States Air Force, the X-37B, and everything else that is going on out there that we know of directly. So there's that side of it. But how do we handle, or how does the government handle, not disclosure, but the explanation when all of this does come out? What do they do to handle the possibility of anarchy in the streets? Not that everybody would be freaked out about the knowledge of aliens. They don't care about that. I'm talking about the pissed offedness of being lied to.
I think this ties into Hillary Clinton the other night, because I was also struck by the fact that she only spoke for just over 1 minute on this subject with Jimmy Kimmel, but there was something very important. The fact that she mentioned and clarified the fact that they are not called UFOs, but the UAP. And that's a term that was coined back in 1980 by Richard Haynes, who's still alive. Richard Haynes is the founder of a very excellent organization called NARCAP, which studies aviation encounters with UFOs. And it's gained credence, and it's obviously made its way into government circles. Hillary Clinton mentions UAP.
Which is also in the Condign report too as well.
That's absolutely true and very important. I'm guessing Hillary gained access to that phrase very possibly through her campaign manager, John Podesta, who is quite involved in the UFO subject, as I think everyone knows. But it's also possible that she encountered that, separately from Podesta, because she obviously has more than 20 years connection to this, at least through her connection with Lawrence Rockefeller in the early mid-1990s. So Hillary Clinton clearly knows about UFOs/UAP. What I really wondered that she was doing, because we have to remember everything that happened on that Jimmy Kimmel show, none of it was just off the cuff. All of it, you don't just toss things out at Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. That doesn't happen. That's not how it works on these things.
There's no improv.
No, absolutely not.
None.
And so clearly they wanted to talk about this. And this is the real question, like why? So if there's going to be a disclosure, this is a kind of a mini disclosure in a way, because you've got really the most recognizable woman in the world, I guess, probably, and certainly one of the most powerful women in the world, essentially stating that, yes, there is such a phenomenon, and it has its own specific term, UAP. If Jimmy Kimmel were an actual journalist, which of course he's not, he would have said, whoa, stop. Let's talk about this. How is it that you've come to this phrase? How did this come to you? How did you learn about it? That would have been interesting. But what I think she may be doing is rebranding UFOs. So like if there ever were to be a disclosure, it occurs to me that those individuals with this secret would do their best to control absolutely all of the spin on this, to keep it away from you and to keep it away from me and all the other people who have actually been in the trenches working on this problem and asking questions. They don't want that. They want to control it. So by calling it UAP rather than UFO, that takes a little bit of the sting out. That takes a little bit even of the alien possibility out. That takes the whole abduction phenomenon maybe out of the picture in a sense by spinning it in a different way. The U.S. is really expert at spin and propaganda and public relations. This is the best thing that they do that better than anything else. And so I think what they would try to do is control the spin by rebranding UFOs as UAP, which is a much more kind of vague, non-committal, non-value laden term.
And
now, I don't
also
think that it would succeed. I think that it would still fail because I think people would still be like, hey, wait a minute. What are these things? And what about all the, claims of secrecy?
It's funny how you present it like a marketing scenario, because UAP sounds intelligent, right? It doesn't. UFO sounds crazy. If UFO comes out of your mouth, you're a nutbag, right? But if you say
UAP, no, it's not. It's different.
It's
totally
intelligent, different. Right? It's intelligent. So
UFO back in the 50s was meant to be exactly that. The phrase UFO came out so that people wouldn't have to say flying saucers.
Right,
so
right.
It's the exact same thing, but now we've gone 60 years ahead or plus, and the phrase UFO has taken on the place that flying saucers once took, and it's like, silliness. So now UAP. It's the new politically correct phrase.
I wanted to address one thing really quick. I know that you talk to Burroughs a lot. I haven't had him on the show in a while. I've kind of, because of him and Linda doing Phenomenon, let them do their own thing for a little bit.
Sure,
I need to get him back on, because the Condign, the entire report is an interesting read. But there is one sentence in the Condign report that frigging floored me. Like, I'm serious, just like, you've got to be kidding me. And the sentence was, and I'm paraphrasing, but was something to the effect of, this kind of effect on a human can only be caused by extended exposure to a UAP.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I'm just like, wait a minute. They put that in print.
And people need to understand, I'm sure you've explained this in previous shows, but people must understand the Condon Report was a highly classified UK military document that was really never supposed to be declassified. This is the thing about it. It was written in the late 90s, and it was an analysis of UAP phenomenon in many, many different ways, including how they moved and the impossible ways in which they moved, and as well as what you're just referring to, the physiological effects on human beings. And this was important to John because he suffered and continues to suffer physiological effects from his UFO encounter from almost 36 years ago. So it is very important. And this is why he did the true work on this, which no one else did, myself included. I'm not leaving myself out of criticism here. That report was available for anyone to read. And like all of these things, they're dry, they're not really fun. John slogged through it and found the gold. And thank goodness that he did that. This is why our field requires everyone to contribute. That's a 400-plus page report. And you just know, not everyone's going to read these things as carefully as they should. So I'm glad John did. But yes, the Condon Report really, as he has now been saying, I think he's right. It's confirmation. Not the same as disclosure, but it is confirmation of the UFO. I'm going to continue to say UFO phenomenon.
Well, that one line, Richard, that one line clearly states that they know exactly what is going on. And they have that one line. The entire report, like I said, it's a good read. It's pretty fascinating. But that one line, that one sentence clearly says, this is what's going on, and we have the documentation to back this up. That's exactly what it says. And in fact, the follow-up sentence after that is it says, all of our information says that when you're dealing with a UAP, and I'm just like, wait a minute here. What they're not what's the word I'm trying to they're not
they're taking it as a given. It's accepted. It's an accepted part of their reality.
Yeah, they're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to speak in second speak or anything like that.
One of the other things about that report that is very clearly in there is a statement that the technology is being weaponized by different groups, right, in a kind of competition. So there's this, and this opens up a very kind of interesting reality and a very interesting world for us to understand. And again, this makes sense because really, I think what we're talking about is a global competition. And this, the more, one you look into this, the more I think this is why the United States and the Russians, this is part of essentially the undeclared war that the United States is having against Russia right now, which it is. It's kind of a hybrid war, in which all these propaganda through regime change tactics, through espionage and everything are all being used. But it's because I think the Russians have their own cachet of knowledge and technology on this subject, which clearly they do. I mean, they have a very sophisticated military-industrial complex as well. And the United States / the West has it. And I think that there is a kind of competition. Maybe the Chinese are involved in this as well. There is rumor that the Chinese had their own UFO crash back in the 1950s. None of this is confirmed. I mean, China is a very opaque society in many ways, and its government and military is very opaque. But the leading living Chinese UFO researcher made such a statement not long ago in an interview we did with Open Minds that it is his belief that quite possibly, he's not saying definitely, that there was a crash in 1954 in China. So if that's the case, then the Chinese might be involved to some extent. To what extent they could compete. Today, they probably can compete. They've got the capability. So you could have a global subterranean competition dealing with highly advanced breakthroughs stemming from extraterrestrial or non-human technology. That's the situation we could be dealing with.
Last year, you and we were, I think it was at Contact in the Desert. I just want to refresh your mind, your memory. And I turned to you. We were sitting in the hot sun for a couple hours, and we're talking. And I turned to you. I said, "So, dude, what are you going to talk about?" You were literally walking in to go speak, and you turned to me and you said, "You know what, man? I'm pissed off. I think I'm doing black. Yeah, you go. I'm doing black budgets." And I said, well, wait a minute. You turned to me and you said, I've been reading about this for the last couple of days. I'm pissed off. I don't have anything prepared. I'm going in off the cuff. I'm doing black budgets. Do you remember that?
Not really.
Okay. But that's exactly
this is the story of my life, though. So anyway, go on, because you have my interest.
But that's exactly what you ended up doing. And I went in and listened to your presentation. But
was it okay? Was it good?
It was good. It was great. But let's back up now. There's a reason why you did that. Why is it that what is it that you are researching that not only in the UFO phenomenon and everything else that forced you into going into reading about black budgets? There you took a right-hand turn. And I'm telling you, Richard, you were spitting, that you were like, you were totally angry about this. And
I'm becoming this curmudgeon. I can see it happening before my eyes.
Yeah, I know you are. You're going to cut your hair off.
Like the get off my lawn type of guy, screaming at the kids in the future. I think. Well, I think I've always been, at fundamental, from the time that I was like 7, 8 years old, I've always been interested in politics and history, always. And science and baseball, but history and politics, yes, absolutely. And as I got older, it was always my obsession. And it took me a long time because understanding the structure of power on this earth is not, this information doesn't just come to people. We are in a world that is filled with propaganda and lies and deception, and it's for a reason. So it's taken me personally many years to understand things. When I got into the UFO subject, I was in my early 30s at that time. I had spent 15 years working very, very diligently in the field of history and politics and trying to understand all kinds of subterranean things. And, the thing that's always driven me, is what's the actual deal? Like, who's running the show? And then I got into the UFO subject, and that blew my mind. I'll never forget. This is 1994. And as I've often said, truthfully, I spent about a year lying in bed at night staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out my world. And it wasn't even in a state of anxiety or trauma. It was simply one if-then situation after another. If this is real, as it appears to be, then what does this say about all the presidential administrations I thought I knew something about? And if this is true, then why the hell has the political establishment been silent about it? And why has the media been silent? And then how is it possible to keep a secret? All of these things opened up. So from the beginning in this field, I've been a very politically directed researcher. It's not that I am not interested in the science. I'm very interested in the science. And in my last book, UFOs for the 21st Century Mind, I really explored that a lot, much more than I ever had before. And I'm very glad I did. But the core of what I'm interested in is always the politics. And to that extent, yes, the philosophical existential issue of, are we alone? That's important as well. But the politics, the cover-up, to me, and this is why I get angry, I'm not easily offended, but I'll tell you what does offend me. When I get lied to by my government that I'm supposed to be the sovereign person in this country. I'm not supposed to be afraid of my government. They're supposed to be afraid of me. They're supposed to be afraid of you. And so I'm offended. I'm deeply offended when I run into a topic that I think is the single most important subject that we could be encountering, which is the UFO phenomenon, UAP, aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever, and that I get lied to by my government throughout my entire lifetime. And not only lied to, but they try to make those of us who are interested in this look like fools, and we are subject to ridicule. And I find that offensive. And I find it an intentional infantilization of our species and of our society. And it's a mind bleep. All right. It's a mind job done on people because Remember the phrase gaslighting?
Yes.
You're trying to psych someone out, and you're doing things to them, and they're thinking, wow, what are you doing? And you're like, no, everything's fine. And they start to lose their sense of reality. That's really what our government's been doing to us. They've been gaslighting us. And that's what pisses me off. That's what I find offensive. I don't like to be having my government, the democratic Republican system of government that I'm supposed to be proud of. I don't want them to be gaslighting me. And I don't like them gaslighting my fellow citizens. So that's why I get angry. And then furthermore, when you see what is obviously a criminal kleptocracy at the top of this whole little chain of ours, clearly benefiting from this system that's in place. And Jimmy Carter just today was quoted as saying, he did an interview a couple of days ago. He's 90, I think, years old now. Former president, and he said the United States is an oligarchy marked by unbridled bribery.
Right.
That's what I just saw this evening.
I did too.
In an interview.
Yes.
And he nailed it. It is an oligarchy. Why shouldn't that get me angry? If I stop getting angry about this, then I'm done. Just put me out into a retirement home and feed me oatmeal for the rest of my life.
Right.
There's just nothing left for me.
Well, I
can't get angry about that, then there's nothing to get angry about.
There was, back in 1995, 94, 95, at the dawn of the internet, there was probably, to this day, the coolest UFO alternative website ever in the history of the internet. It's called UFO Mind. And I
remember this website.
Oh man, it was huge. It was a database, and it was links. And I went through, and I had all of my videos, and I had my books and my collection and things. And all I did was research. And then that website launches. And I went, it was run by Glenn, what was his last name? Out of Las Vegas. And so,
not Glenn Campbell?
Yeah, Glenn Campbell.
Yeah.
And so I
Not the singer Glenn Campbell, clearly, but there was a Glenn. He's still around. This other Glenn Campbell was really into Area 51 back in the 80s and 90s.
He was right in the middle of it, man.
Yeah.
And so I go, and I went, I spent a summer, probably 1994, 1995, that summer, reading every single link on that website.
Wow. That's a major education.
Because it was huge. Okay, it was huge. It was like an Encyclopedia Britannica set. It's like, starting on page 1 of book A and then ending at Z, because it was all in alphabetical order, his website. And so anyway, I spent the entire, just like you stared at the ceiling, wondering about life, right? And I go through that website, man, and I went back to my books and my videos, and I'm cross-referencing everything that I'm reading, and I really, really, really studied. And to go into this field, people think that I just showed up one day on a microphone. You can't get to this point without having a solid foundation. And I went through, and by the time I got done with that, I looked at Washington, D.C., I looked at the United States, I looked at the military, I looked at the other researchers with a completely different set of eyes going, what is going on? Because D.C. and our own government was not addressing these fundamental issues that have been out there from hundreds of thousands of people.
And not only that, when you learn that at the classified level, they've clearly been talking about this as something like in the Condon report. But even before that came out, we still had our own declassified documents, which we got really during the 70s, during the Jimmy Carter years, frankly, most of them.
Right.
When we had a somewhat workable Freedom of Information Act. Those documents that we have, I look upon as a kind of historical accident. That's how we got them. And we just got lucky for a little while when FOIA was worth something. And those documents also, equally to the Condon report, prove that this is a reality. So we know they've been talking seriously about it in the classified level and just completely lying to the public in the public level.
Yeah, and it changed me. You know, it really did. I just had to look around. You know, I was intrigued with alien contact. I was fascinated with, you know, the idea of flying saucers being out there. Of course, you know, it's cool. It's great. You know, and I enjoy the movies. And then when you really get into the research and you really do your due diligence and you find out how screwed up the entire situation is, where they just haven't come clean and we have been lied to about this, I got angry, you know, and I haven't been the same since. And I'm in that position today. And I see that in you, you know. I see the anger and I see the bitterness.
Oh, yeah.
As much as
well, I'm still a happy person. I mean, I will just mention, like, my friends still think that I'm, you know, somewhat fun to hang out with sometimes. But and I try to laugh and I enjoy my life in many ways. But yes, when I think about these larger issues, I like to use the anger, and I'm not afraid of it. You know, in the kind of new agey elements of our field, we sometimes hear people saying, "No, well, you know, don't focus on the negativity." And I'm like, you know what? Negativity is one of the best motivators for getting positive things done. If you're not angry about the injustice in this world and there's something wrong with you, you have to open your eyes and look and see that there are problems with the world around us. And that includes certainly the deception related to the topic of UFOs, UAP. And it involves criminality. And, you know, this is the whole dimension that typically with television treatments of the subject, they almost never get into. They've gotten into it to some extent with Hangar One a little bit, to their credit. Very few other shows have really dealt with the political dimensions of this phenomenon. Usually they're very simple, like, infantile, like he said, she said type stories, like, oh, well, there's some UFO stories, but then you get the skeptics to say, no, it's not really. And, you know, I mean, this is like spinning your wheels. There's a serious reality to this phenomenon. And the other thing we should, you know, I mean, this is really getting off the topic of breakaway civilization, but just to mention, all right, that there are thousands and maybe millions, but certainly many thousands of people who have had what appear to be encounters. And some of them they feel are positive, and others do not feel that they were positive. But all of them have been affected deeply by their experiences. This is not fun and games. And yet, you know, you get these people in the mainstream, whether they're Bill Nye, the science guy, or Neil deGrasse Tyson, who really actually make jokes about it. And that's something else that offends me. And it angers me, because these are individuals, they're for real. And they've had experiences that they don't know how to process. They don't know how to explain it. And it's very difficult even for them to talk about it. And I have personally spoken to some of these people who are deeply traumatized by their encounters. And here's Neil deGrasse Tyson making it all into a big joke. That's a great disservice to humanity, and it's a disservice to himself when he really gets right down to it, and it's certainly a disservice to those people who've had the experiences.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And the problem that I have with Neil is that he is not a physicist anymore. He's not a scientist anymore. He's a celebrity. And so if you are not a serious researcher and you're not funded and you're not out doing things right now, your thing is to be a celebrity scientist.
Dude is working for the man. You want to really get down to it? That's what he's doing. He's doing PR work for the national security state.
That's exactly right. And he has influence over a lot of minds out there.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem that I have with him. You know, and I don't care. I will fight him tooth and nail on this. You need to really be careful about what you say, because you influence a lot of people. You are a celebrity now. You're not a scientist anymore. Forget about that. He hasn't been inside of a laboratory or done any research in a decade, or maybe even longer. You know, he's a celebrity. Let's take a break, and when we come back, I have a question here that I'm going to throw out at you that probably you've never been asked.
Okay.
Check this out, which is, and I want you to think about this on the break, what is your favorite UFO story? Think about that, Richard. I want to hear it when we come back. This is Fade to Black, Richard Dolan.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
If your home has hard water and it's leaving white spots, then it's likely that limescale is clogging your pipes. Limescale can cost hundreds of dollars a year in wasted energy and early appliance breakdown. HydroCare systems available at Wave Home Solutions prevent and remove limescale with just a simple filter change every 3 years. There are no salts, chemicals, or magnetic coils. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, just go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
If you're a talk radio fan, AccessRadio.net lets you listen to the best talk shows anytime and from anywhere. Works on your mobile or landline phone, and there's no cost if you have unlimited minutes. No need to use your data. Find your favorite talk show listen lines and discover new ones. Now you can listen on your schedule. Go to AccessRadio.net. That's AccessRadio.net. Save your favorite listen lines today.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood. Not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Richard Dolan. Tonight, I'm opening up the phone lines. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. And, Richard, when was the last time you took phone calls? See, you don't take phone calls on your...
No, I hate phone calls, man. But bring them on. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you right now. So I'm going to be tough on the callers because you got to be on point. I do a bunch of different radio things now. I actually do a local Rochester-based radio thing.
I heard about that.
I have fun with that. That's great. I've got a great local friend, a brilliant lady named Dr. Eden O'Malley. And we have a show we call the Effed Files. The Effed Files. Isn't that great? Because there's so much that's effed about our world. And I will occasionally get into UFO chat, but I've been doing a lot of political stuff, and she's into politics. So we have callers, and they're just, I just want people to stop jerking around and get. So I don't take calls on that show, and I'm like, I don't want people calling and interrupting me. I used to take calls on my show, what I did on KGRA when I had a 3-hour format. Back when I called it Truth Out Radio for a little while, and I had callers, and it was okay. I've done a lot of calls on Coast to Coast. I've done that many times. Callers can be fun, but I don't want when callers have their own agenda and they don't get to the point. I'm being mean in here. I'm being curmudgeon. I realize. So just get your game on. As my I don't listen to him anymore, but I used to like Jim Rome, who did the Rome in the Jungle.
Yeah.
Have a take and don't suck.
Yeah, right.
So get to it.
You used to listen to Rome?
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't listen to him much anymore, but I used to love the guy, man.
Yeah, off the air. The next time I see you, I'll share you some stories.
I liked him because as a radio personality, he was totally unique. He developed his own nomenclature, and you really had to listen a lot to understand what this guy was even talking about. But there was something about his manner, excuse me, on the air that I always rather liked.
Yeah.
In fact, I used to listen to sports more than I don't really care anymore, but I used to follow sports a few years ago.
You know what? I really want to stay on the subject, but we can't, and there's reasons for it. But Rome started off here in San Diego, and I used to do a lot of driving in the music business. And so I picked him up in San Diego.
Really?
Yeah, Extra Sports 690. He was on one station. Yeah, one station, and then it blew up. And that it is what it is now. But back then, I thought he was my own little discovery. Right? I'm like, man. I thought that I planted a flag on something, but I could tell. Like you just said, I could tell that it was bigger than life. And
there's something. Yeah, he has a real talent. He's got a very good radio talent.
Yeah, it definitely took off for him. All right, so your favorite UFO story. Now that
I don't really know if I have one. There's a few that I think are really fascinating ones. And they're not the ones that, George Norrie once asked me this on Cozy. Richard, what is your favorite? What do you think is the best UFO story? I'm trying to do my George Norrie voice. And I tossed out the 1976 Iranian case with the F-4 fighter interceptors. And that is a great case. It's a great case because intrinsically it's just fascinating. You've got two Iranian F-4 interceptors attempting to intercept this amazing object over the city of Tehran that they tracked on radar. And this object sent out a smaller object after one of the craft and nearly, I think, scared the hell out of the pilot who evaded it. And then it rejoined the mother craft for a perfect rejoin. It's interesting for that. It's interesting also for the fact that we have very good documentation on the case from the Defense Intelligence Agency. So that's one of them. Another one that I find fascinating is a Russian case from 1989 at a place called Kapustin Yar, July 28th into July 29th of 1989. So, about 27 years ago. Now, Kapustin Yar is like was the Soviet and Russian equivalent of White Sands Proving Grounds. It was a major rocket launch facility, serious technology, very, you don't just go there at all. This is highly secretive. So near midnight, with perfect weather, perfect visibility, a disc-shaped object flew toward the weapons depot. And by the way, we know about this through KGB files that were released during the dissolution of the Soviet Union. It was a disc-shaped object. It was silent. It had a greenish glow to it. It was estimated to be of about 15 feet in diameter and an intense light underneath it. It hovered low over the weapon site. We're talking a little over 60 feet above. It directs a bright beam down. How much more dramatic do you want? It circles around a few times, and then it goes away, and then it comes back. They scramble one fighter jet. The UFO is evading the jet. It's playing cat and mouse the whole time. The pilot sees it, then can't see it. He's having a hard time with it. The maneuvers described are unbelievable. You're talking rapid acceleration, abrupt stopping, jumps up and down, dividing into what was described as three shining points. It took the shape of a triangle at one point. And then you have a second object appearing, and then a third object, all of these at low altitude. Then what they do is they all fly together and disappear beyond the horizon after about an hour and a half of this. You have testimony from 7 Soviet soldiers and officers, all strongly corroborating each other. There's a bit more, but it's an amazing story. So think about this. You're in the heart of the Soviet Union in 1989. And if you look at the location of this is really far inland. So the question is this an American? Are the Americans playing games with the Soviets at this point? This is a really tough call to make, and I don't think the answer is yes. but you never know. If it is so, though, then the Americans had functional flying saucers, totally functional in 1989. Maybe we did. We had the so-called alien reproduction vehicle on demonstration in 1988.
Right.
So maybe they were just jerking the chain of the Russians, or maybe this is something else. But in any case, it's a fascinating story, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite. It's my favorite right now because I'm talking about it. I think it's an amazing case. There's a lot of these that, just get swept by the boards. People forget about them. There was another Russian case. I'm interested in some of these from a year later near Moscow. Same type of thing. And I like this one too because this is during the era of perestroika, and it was Gorbachev was still running the show there. And there was a sense of openness in that nation that really had never existed before and really doesn't exist now in terms of UFOs, in terms of military encounters. You have an object doing S-shaped maneuvers vertically and horizontally. You have over 100 visuals by military personnel. You have the Deputy Defense Minister of Defense and the Chief of the Soviet Air Defense Forces, a general, talking about this publicly. Saying that this is unbelievable maneuverability. The general, a man named Igor Maltsev, said, whoever they are, they have somehow come to terms with gravity. At the present time, he said, terrestrial machines could hardly have such capabilities. Well, we talk about, public figures who've made major statements on this. This is one of them. He was the chief of air defense of the Soviet Union at the time. So I think, there's some amazing cases. Moscow, March 21, 1990. Another of my favorite ones is one that I did some investigation of myself, the Washington, D.C. overflight of 2002. I spoke to two of the key witnesses of that case, and this is 50 years after the great overflight of 1952, and it was less than a year after 9/11, when the whole country was going caca cuckoo over terrorism, supposedly.
Right.
You have objects invading or very close to invading sensitive airspace by the Capitol. And we've got confirmed F-16 jets trying to intercept, having absolutely no capability of dealing with these objects. And some very good witnesses on it. So I think that's a very good case.
Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Faded Black. Say hi to Richard Dolan.
Hi, Richard Dolan. This is Mark from Oregon. I wanted to ask you about electromagnetic frequency. Dr. Bernard Eastland was working with
developed the HARP program. Yeah,
HARP, yes.
Yeah.
And now that's been miniaturized, and lower power versions are being used with cell phone towers. And given that this has the capability of broadcasting at the same frequencies used by the human brain, and we have LRAD, and we have crowd control weapons that can produce pain.
Correct.
We know that this was tested on live TV, and it could cause extreme confusion and even make people babble unintelligibly. I just wonder, in terms of a breakaway civilization, do you think that this has been tied in with data transmission over AC power lines, and that it could be tied in with the smart meter? And do you think that it's being used against us, the American public?
Well, some of what you're asking is a little bit beyond my understanding technically, I have to confess, and I struggle to understand some of the finer points of what you're saying. But the larger issue, I think, is really germane. I'm really glad you brought this up, and I was complaining about callers, but I'm very glad you called. The idea of electromagnetic frequencies. Bernard Eastland is the man who really, and he helped to develop the technology that became known as HARP, and he ended up disavowing it because he realized it was being used really for evil purposes. There have been a number of scientists for many years who have talked about the capability of using frequencies like this to harness the human mind. One of them was Michael Persinger, over a U.S. defense scientist working in Canada. This has been going on for a long time. I think the capability is absolutely there as a way to gain control over people, these type of psychotronic weapons. I have to assume that this is part of the matrix of weaponry that a breakaway civilization would have access to, for sure. I would have to think so. I mean, certainly the U.S. military used weapons like this as far back as the first Persian Gulf War, 1990-91. Apparently, they outfitted Apache helicopters with these types of acoustic weaponry that were designed to disable Iraqi soldiers and basically do what the kind of thing you were describing. So I don't really think I gave you a good answer to that. Sorry, but it sounds like my answer would be yes. That's really what it sounded like.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Jimmy, for taking my call.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't do a better job of that question, but I think it sounded like an excellent question.
That's because we have a very smart audience. Hi, you're live.
You do. Clearly, I was a highly intelligent caller.
You're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Richard Dolan. You're live.
Hello?
You're live.
Yes.
What's your question for Richard?
Hello.
My question for Richard is, I'm following the information that's out there now in the secret space program. And I know that you have kind of theorized what would the general public's reaction be with full disclosure. So I'm curious, in your political
I think we lost you. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm right here.
Okay,
My
quickly.
question for you is your political opinion on how will full disclosure affect these agencies like NASA and other agencies that think they're the elite in the government programs when only they're actually probably a front to funnel money to secret space programs.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And in fact, this was a major part of the theme of a book I wrote about 5 or 6 years ago called AD After Disclosure. Essentially, what I think is that if there's a genuine or even a spin-laden disclosure, if the president of the United States were ever to give credence in some way or another to the UFO phenomenon, I think it would be very difficult to contain. It would be like, try to become a little bit pregnant. I don't think you can do that. And I don't see how you could do a little bit of disclosure. And you might be able to contain it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks or maybe even a couple of months at the most. But at some point, the questions would start coming out. Questions such as I've been asking for years and others, what is the actual structure of the secrecy? Who's been running the show? People, they won't just be able to pretend that doesn't exist. And there will have to be, I think, some kind of major house cleaning or at least an attempt. It's one of two things, either a major house cleaning generated by an angry public that wants some answerability and some transparency to this.
Some satisfaction. Yeah.
Or on the other hand, the imposition of some kind of complete, total global fascism, which absolutely could happen. It could go the other way. The government could just say, look, this is the real deal. This is very serious, and we need to control this. And, ramp up everything that they're doing already right now, which they are. We have to call this for it, is that we are seeing the development of a global totalitarian system. How is it not totalitarian if they don't they're reading every email you write, every text message you send? If it's important, if they want to know about it, they can. If you want to go to a public protest, they photograph you and triangulate your face, and they know and you're going to go into a database. And you know this. It's ruled by intimidation. We're seeing it already. So that would just be ramped up, it seems to me, and there could very well be an attempt to impose a kind of global an openly global fascist state. And I don't think that's impossible at all.
And you bring up a really good point, because the disclosure that would happen from the Oval Office is one type. Then you have, how is the NSA going to deal with it? How is the CIA going to deal? How is the FBI going to deal with it? Because they all have different information and they have different ways of dealing with this and different bureaucracies. So it's not going to be one generalized. They don't communicate with each other anyway. So, is the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the three branches of the federal government all going to get together and come up with a press release? It's not going to happen that way. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Richard Dolan.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Hey, a two-part question. Do you research are you currently researching any ET UFO stories? And have you heard of the Kyle Odom story that happened on March 6th when he shot the pastor that he believed was a shapeshifter? He's currently in the Washington jail.
Oh,
my goodness.
Yes,
Answer to your first question, yes, I do. The answer to your second question is no, I had not known about that case.
Yeah, it happened last week or 2 weeks ago.
Interesting. There's a lot that slips by me, and it is true. Like for the current period of time, my main focus actually isn't really the UFO phenomenon. I mean, I'm not out of it, but I'm doing a great deal of research on false flag operations and the history of false flags. So that's sort of taken a little bit more of my time lately. But no, this is fascinating. So what's the basic story of this gentleman?
Okay, I'll send you a link. But basically, he was in the military. I'm going to make it real quick. Mm-hmm. And then he went to college in Texas. And during his time in college, he decided to take up meditation, taking some heavy courses in human biology and genetics and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. During his meditation one night, he had a blue orb come into his consciousness, and it apparently transformed into some type of ET. Later, he sought spiritual counseling in Idaho through a pastor named Tim, I think it's Remington, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And during that counseling, the pastor supposedly shape-shifted in front of him.
And he shot the pastor.
He ended up...
became distraught. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, what ended up happening, the reason why I'm going to jump in really quick is because Richard's got to go. And I want him to hear this whole story, which is this is what happened, Richard. So he turns around and he tells his family and his wife, and he accuses the Earth in general as being invaded by Martians and off-world reptilians, and so he freaks out, shoots the pastor, kills him. And ends up, this is last week, okay? And this is for real.
Jimmy, by the way, he's not dead. The pastor is still alive.
Oh, he's still alive? Okay. I thought he killed him.
Shot 12 times, but did not kill the pastor. That's
okay.
Oh, my God. Wow.
But ends up at the White House at the fence and starts throwing USB drives over the White House fence. And he flies. He flies to the same day that he did the shooting of his pastor. He ends up in D.C. and he's throwing this data over the fence and starts talking to the Secret Service as he gets arrested about a reptilian invasion of planet Earth. And now he's in jail. And that's the story. That's what happened. This is last week.
He's going to go to court on April 6th.
Yes, April 6th. I'm very.
Well, I would say this, irrespective of whatever happened to this man, blue orbs, and whether he was transformed in one way or another, I would suggest that in doing what he did, aside from attempting to kill this pastor, that's extreme enough, but by going to the White House, throwing USB drives over, and it tells me that he lost all sense of reality. Like he completely lost it. That he was not acting in any kind of rational way, because this is not. You could presumably kill someone if you were convinced that they were a shape-shifting reptilian, but you would not rationally go to the White House and throw USB drives over the fence and talk with Secret Service thinking. I mean, our world is
manifesto that he was trying to get to President Obama. Just so you know, that was what the.
On the USB drive, right. And,
I assumed something like that, but it just seems like this is completely unhinging. I mean, there's no sense of reality here. There's no sense of how to go about this process.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
There's something just very wrong with this guy.
Thank you
I agree with you.
Yeah, thank you for the phone call.
Thank you for the story. I should catch up on that.
All right, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Yeah, but you need to. There's going to be some follow up to this, but it's actually just with Hillary and everything that just seems to be in the news lately about this kind of stuff, and then this happens. It's just interesting. I wanted this. Richard's got to go. Everybody, he gave me the hard rules today.
I would love to keep going, but I know. I made an obligation. I have to pick up a friend who I was supposed to do this an hour ago, and he's waiting, and I feel terrible. Like
No, see what you're supposed to say. See, that makes you sound like a human being. You're supposed to, I got to go meet some people, and we're going to meet.
No, I promise. He's a great guy. This is a guy who's fixed my car like a million times, and he's a super great guy, and I promised him I would just do this one favor, and he's waiting.
I wanted to share this with you. Man, the phone lines are slamming. Sorry, Richard.
Really good callers, I have to say. I'm just going to have a mea culpa here and congratulate the excellent callers you have.
I wanted to share this. The favorite UFO story thing is for me, and I'm not kidding about this, is I've got to go Betty and Barney Hill, and the book still to this day fascinates me from cover to cover. And the other evidence that came out after that was Zeta Reticuli and the mapping of the star systems.
I agree. That's a fascinating story. Absolutely.
It is. And the other one for me, I'm serious. Betty Andreessen and the Andreessen affair. And
so you're interested in some of the abduction stories, I think, and those are two very interesting. Betty Andreessen is absolutely fan. Ray Fowler, who researched and wrote about her, I think did a very, very credible job.
That book, when you read it, it's just it takes you there. It takes you to another place, and it draws you in. And I find her
a very rich series of memories about meeting a variety of beings, including like robed golden beings, almost like ancient gods. And being, but she's certainly she's within her right mind. I mean, she's not a crazy person, and she's had a wide range of these detailed stories.
And she's great to talk to. And she's fascinating. Hey, Richard, okay, really quick before I let you go, I know you're working on a book right now, and you told me that it's going to be 1,800 pages, right? It's something like that. When's the book coming out? What's it about?
I don't know. I don't know when this is going to be out. I'm working on a book, A History of False Flag Operations. So false flag meaning some nefarious event done by a government, basically an intelligence agency, sometimes a corporation now. Could involve killing people. It could involve blowing things up. It could involve some other kind of psych job, and then blaming that on another party. That's a false flag. And I argue that 9/11 was a false flag. I'm not alone, obviously. Lots of people believe that. But I also think that we live in an era of false flags today. And so what I'm doing, though, is an analytical history of the phenomenon that traces it predominantly through the 20th century, where it really takes shape. During the 1930s and then onwards, where really we start seeing false flags, and I try to explain why they're happening, like what is it about them, and how do we help identify them as well. But false flags have gone through a dramatic evolution in the last century, and this is something that I think there's not enough analytical information about it, and I'm writing the book.
Well, what's interesting is you're a publisher. Right? Do you give yourself your own deadline? How does that work, right?
Maybe I should do that. Maybe that's the best idea.
And this is...
I think I have it done this year. I would like to have the book done this year.
See, false flag, and I'll let you go in the audience with this. False flag now has morphed into its own definition from the true definition of what a false flag is. Going back to the pirates and the Caribbean.
Right.
So it's morphed into its own definition, as has the definition of conspiracy. Because conspiracy was an illegal activity, two people conspiring to commit a crime.
Sure.
Now it's morphed into its own pop culture definition, which is just everything's a conspiracy. I don't believe anything, right? So it's morphed into its own definition too as well. I'm interested to read the book when it comes out, and I can't wait. So...
Yeah, I'm interested in having it finished one day. It's one of the most disturbing subjects I've ever encountered, and it's very absorbing. I will say that. False flags in a way are harder to research than UFOs, in the sense with UFOs you have documents that are confirmed. They're declassified sometimes. False flags are not quite the same. There are some confirmed false flags. Absolutely there are. So we have those. But a good false flag is difficult, because that means that these agencies know how to hide their tracks. And there are some very professional agencies that do these, and they're tough to catch.
It's their job.
That's right. But nonetheless, there has been good research done on many events that point to this conclusion. And so my goal is simply to do my best so that an intelligent, reasonable mind will be able to go through this and hopefully see the patterns that I see.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you, Jimmy. It was a pleasure.
I'll talk to you. As always, man, keep rolling that rock uphill.
Thank you.
Richard Bleepin Dolan. Fascinating conversation tonight. Thank you. That does complete our 3 days. 3 days. Secret Space Program, Breakaway Civilizations. I'm taking your calls next. 323-825-5045. What did you think about our week? Corey Good, Joseph P. Farrell, Richard Dolan. Did you learn something? Talk to me. 323-825-5045. I'll be right back.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Angioprim can clean blocked arteries and improve blood flow in all parts of your body. Angioprim is liquid oral chelation. It's not new science. 50 years of research has gone into chelation, and now there's Angioprim. Easy, simple, liquid oral chelation. You take it with juice before breakfast and forget about it. Angioprim works fast, unlike old-fashioned chelation that takes hours. The first thing Angioprim users say is they have more energy, more strength, more endurance. Increased circulation and blood flow will make all your body parts work better. Log on now at angioprim.com to get more information on how you can get started and start feeling better and doing more. Lots more. Talk to a trained Angioprim consultant or go to angioprim.com for help. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. That's Angioprim at 877-882-7221. Get the facts about Angioprim. Begin living the life you want, doing the things you used to do again with Angioprim.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. So, we want to take a poll. Let me tell you what's going on. Want to take a poll. Monday, Corey Good, of course. Tuesday, Joseph P. Farrell. Tonight, Richard Dolan. Want to take a poll. So you can call in and tell us who is your favorite. That's the first thing. Also, this is going to be done on Facebook, and we're going to do it in Twitter here. The winner, the one that you guys vote in, we're going to bring back, and we'll do a Q&A night just for you. I'll shut up, and I'll let you run the show. Emails, Twitter, and phone calls. Okay? But we can't do it without you. Okay? So that's the poll. We're going to get the poll going on Facebook. Well, I think we'll probably get something going on the website, too, as well. Ryan just said Joseph P. Farrell right there. So there it is. 323-825-5045. Let me know, what you thought was your favorite night of the week. They were all good, by the way. And what was really cool, and was done by design, was to have 3 different guests, 3 different opinions, 3 different views on this. And that's the best way to do it. And, man, Monday night was pretty bleeping epic. But Joseph P. Farrell, I could talk to that guy for 8 hours at a stretch. And then, of course, Dolan, there you go. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hello there, Jimmy. This is Captain. How are you, sir?
Hey, Captain. How are you?
Okay. My best, your very best, was definitely Corey Good. I got to give you kudos for that. I don't know how you pulled that one off, but that was an excellent interview.
I'm with you. I'm with you. It was, I don't know if it was an excellent interview, but he was an excellent guest. I can't say that I did an excellent interview. It's not about that. But was he an excellent guest? Yes.
Yes, he was an excellent guest.
And new information, yes. Things that we hadn't heard before, yes. A clear. The thing is that I wanted to do with Corey, and this is where I agree with you. I wanted Corey to be comprehensive. I wanted him to be clear. I wanted him to be linear, to start from the beginning and go to today and put it together for everybody. And that's what I wanted to do. And that, I think we achieved all of that, because he's always had, and the thing is with Corey is it needed to be baby steps for him. You just can't come out and by yourself and do this. David Wilcock helped him along and to get him to open up. To have him come on this show for 2.5 straight hours was an achievement for him, and so I wanted to make sure that that he was comfortable, but that we were able to let. There's a thing that happens, Captain, and you're getting better at it too, by the way, in calling into the show. There's something that that is important for everybody to do. Is you need to connect your brain to your jaw and not have a filter in between, because then you block your thoughts.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because, I'm going to tell you something, why do I always be the first one on the call? Because I know how to connect. And the thing is, I manifest. I manifest my place in this lifetime. I have always done that.
Yeah.
I have always done that.
And that's what is important to do. And Corey is getting there, and so you need to be able to not worry about what people are thinking, not worrying about your own life, not thinking about, did I pay my electric bill today? I need to make my car, the things that pollute and will filter and get in between your brain and your jaw. And that's what's important to do. And Corey...
Listen, Jimmy, let me say this real quick. That guy you're talking about, the one who did the shooting of the pastor, his name is Cal Odom.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to tell you about this ex-Marine. I read into that story. I'm going to tell you something. This kid is very believable. A lot of people think he's off, and I'm telling you that some of the things he says in his let's say his talks lead me to believe that he is telling the truth about this pastor, and for this pastor to survive 12 rounds of shots, that tells me something is not right.
Yes. There, check this out. Not only with him, but don't forget what happened out here in Los Angeles a couple of months ago. Okay, remember the guy with the 3,000 guns in his house and all the cash?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay, almost the same story.
Yeah, almost the same thing. You see, these stories are coming out. They're coming out. you're getting people start to talk because it's true. We do have people on this planet that they look like human beings, but they're not. And it's going to be, you're going to have a lot more of this. It's going to be happening very soon.
Yeah. When you start to have consistency is the word I want to. When you start to have this, not only what happened here in Pacific Palisades, and then this incident with Odom over in Washington D.C., and the other things that are being spoken about out there. It's we need to just kind of sit back and step back and analyze what's going on, and start to assimilate the information and take a hard look at it, because there's a point where I hate to say this, I really do, but I hate to say this when it goes beyond coincidence. What is it now, Captain? Let's be for real here. Is it a situation where they have direct information about ET contact that is from off-world, right? We have that scenario. Then there is the other extreme, 180 degrees in the other direction, that there's the possibility of this information being implanted, fed to them, an MK Ultra type of program, where they believe that it is real because it is real. To them, it is real. They don't know that it's not. And so, or is it something that's in the middle, like what Richard was talking about tonight, where you have a combination of reality and a combination of disinfo and untruth? So that's what we have here. We need to really take a hard look at that.
Last night, on your call last night, I wanted you to finish off on that deal with the black satellite. I really want you to talk about that last night, but you got away from that, and I really want you to talk about it last night.
Well, what is it that you want to know?
Well, I asked Corey Good about who controls that satellite. Is it us, or is it off-world, or is it our galactic friends?
I can answer that directly. Sorry, I was sipping my Starbucks. I just did a plug.
Okay.
Is this, and I talk about this so much, Captain, that I need everybody to absorb and get this into your brain and don't let it escape. And it damn it, just listen to me for a second. What do we have cruising around Mars right now? Satellites. What do we have cruising around Jupiter right now? Cassini, and Pioneer and Voyager, and we have probes all over the moon and satellites around. What are we doing with that? Right? We are sending probes out there. We're sending probes. We have satellites going around Mars right now, mapping Mars. It's what we do. Okay? Now, if you are an advanced civilization out there exploring the universe like we are, that's what we're doing. Then the thought of a satellite that has been here for 13,000 years, 15,000 years, a million years, orbiting us is reality. That's what somebody would be doing, and they know the Earth is here. Thousands of races of ETs and planets out there throughout the solar system and our universe know that we are here. I said solar system. I mean the Milky Way, our own galaxy, knows that Earth is here. And they have been sending probes here constantly, thousands, maybe even millions. When we have references to blue orbs, blue spheres, what do you think? That's what we are sending out. That's what we are doing. So that's what they are doing here. Let's stop even questioning what is going on. Out of the satellites that are out there right now, well, okay, Black Knight Satellites 1. But we have no idea with the space junk and space debris and the things that are orbiting Earth right now that there could be a couple of hundred that aren't ours, that didn't come from Earth. You know, that's it. You know, and how many have penetrated our atmosphere and have come down and checked things out? That's what we are doing on Mars and Saturn and Venus, and that's all we do. And that's what is being done here, of course. So Black Knight satellite, it's been here for a long time. The stuff that we have orbiting Mars and that's poking around our solar system right now, it's going to be there for a long time. Voyager isn't going to reach the next star for, 16,000 years, right? It's not going to get to another star or planetary body for 16,000 years. How long has the Black Knight satellite allegedly been here? They're guessing, 13,000 years. It makes perfect sense. It does. And that's where I'm coming from with that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more.
Yeah. Well, I went back and watched that commercial, the Pepsi commercial. I gotta say, that just had my hair, my hair was just raised all over my body when I saw the ending. And I'm telling you, the day is coming when we're going to have contact. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Direct, unquestionable reality. You know what's funny? I always, I have the same thought in two places here in L.A. every time that I do it. And one of them is when it's on the 405 freeway. When I'm coming down off the 405 and into Los Angeles, at Santa Monica, I always picture coming down off of that hill, imagining a craft coming down. I'm always imagining that I would see it at that point. And then I have the same vision going back the other way down the 405 into the valley, heading north, a craft just coming down out of the clouds. And that's how it would happen. And every time I'm on the freeway, I have the same vision. So it's going to happen. And for some reason, it's going to happen when I'm on the 405.
For the last month, I've been having dreams about the UFO ships coming down, full-blown ships landing in various parts of the world, and people get a chance to visit our brothers and sisters and talk to them. And then, of course, they get a chance to get on the ships and then go off the ships, off planet, and see what the universe is like. I had dreamt that for the last month or so. It's the same dream over and over again. So apparently something's getting ready to happen.
Well, I can't wait for you to do it. And then when it happens, you can come back on the show and tell everybody that the Earth is round.
I will do that.
Hey, Cap.
Right, well, Jimmy, thanks a lot, buddy.
Take it easy. We'll see you tomorrow night on Fader Night.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
There you go. That's a great call right there. Captain. 323-825-5045. I just got an email putting in another vote for Joseph P. Farrell. Joseph P. Farrell getting the nod tonight on more than one. But so we got Corey. Again, we're running that poll. 323-825-5045. North Korea. Oh, man. Okay. All right. You know what? I'll keep doing. I'll keep going. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hey, I was sorry I didn't get to talk to Richard, Jimmy, but, after all, I helped him sell so many of his books at the Architects of New Paradise.
He told me, he said, if Dino calls in, don't pick up his call. I said, cool. Don't worry about that, Richard. I got that.
Well, what I was going to ask him, and I'm surprised you did not ask him, is... about the question that I had asked last night, which is how many of these space program craft are ours, and does he believe there is any collaboration with any off-worlders in our secret space program? And I'm surprised that we didn't bring that up.
Well, with Richard, see, I'll answer that for him. If it's not if it's not a verifiable document, for him, he's just going to say, look, man, could be, I believe it to be true, but I can't say that it is or it isn't happening because I need to see the documents. That's the way he's going to answer. Now, he may say, I have a document that says that this is happening, and I have spoken to somebody that says it is. But that's how he's going to answer. He's not going to ever go. Yeah. He's not going to. He doesn't like giving his opinion unless he's talking about Steely Dan. That's then he'll give his opinion.
Well, I just thought that would have been interesting, and I know that you're lying about that because about him not wanting to talk to me because he told me you must be my press agent at the Architecture New Paradigm because he brought 2 boxes of books and I couldn't get them alone half the time because just when we'd start talking confidentially, the women would come up and guys too, and they'd say, "What's this book about?" And I'd look at him and say, "Look, I want to guarantee I've read it. You won't be able to put it down." And he'd say, "Why, thanks, Dino." And he sold both boxes of books before the afternoon was out.
Well, the thing is, I think with Richard, no, I don't think. I know this to be true. Richard has gone through a couple of phases here, and one of them that he went through, he was the hardcore UFO historian guy, right? Mm-hmm. And people would just sit and listen to him speak, and he did that, and the history and governments, because he's a historian. That's what he does. And he went through that phase. But now, like he said, curmudgeon, I like the way he talked about that tonight, because now Richards, there's a side to him where he does not care what people think about him anymore. And so he will say exactly what's on his mind. Where before, I think he was very cautious. I keep saying I think. I know that he was very cautious about what he said, and he knew that he was representing ufology, and he was very careful about his words, and people were listening to him, and he was cognizant of that, and he was aware of that. And now he's moved on from that. Now he's pissed off. He's angry. And he wants to speak about the things that he's passionate about right now about the world. And I really dig that about him. I'm telling you, today, he was angry, man. Yeah. I was just like, man, the show is really going to be nuts tonight. And we toned it down a little bit, but I just know that I'm telling you, as opposed to what he speaks about on his show or other shows, he's comfortable here. And he does not have a problem with holding back. Where before, I think that he was careful about what he doesn't care anymore. And I like this.
You just look at his hair. I told him to grow his hair longer. I said, keep growing it. Give a freak flag. Who cares? But I will read his next book. But what worries me, Jimmy, is now that he's expressing himself and not caring, I hope he doesn't get writer's block. He's been trying to finish this book for almost, more than a year. He kept saying, it's almost out, it's almost out. So I hope that it doesn't change, his words, because he writes great books. I'm sincere about that. I've read them, and I told everybody that came up that he writes a good book, and I'm into false flags. I think it'll be informative and historical, which is his forte. But, I want to hear him talk more about these attractive alien women, too. I hope that's the next book.
Oh, man, you're too funny, Dino. Hey, man, thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow night on Fade to Black. On
good
Fader
evening.
Night.
Have a good night.
You got it. He brings up all good points. And like I said, Richard's at that point. I know. He's concerned about the world around him. And that's and he's going to speak his mind. All right, check this out really quick before I get out of here, and I can't wait for tomorrow night. Don't forget, John Rappaport, No More Fake Newsroom, will premiere tomorrow night on Fade to Black. North Korea is accepting aid from an American NGO. You know what an NGO is, a non-government organization, despite claiming that the United States is its biggest enemy. The dictatorship is known for its vocal opposition to the United States and regularly threatens us, that they're going to wipe us off the face of the earth with a nuclear strike and so forth. However, An American aid organization has said that it has delivered its first package to North Korea. The Eugene Bell Foundation is a non-government organization or NGO that specializes in distributing treatment for tuberculosis and has successfully delivered its first batch to the regime. Good for them. A sleeping commuter was rudely awakened. Commuter. Have you seen this video, by the way? Talk about curmudgeon. See, I'm turning into one now because this dude is asleep on a subway in New York, and somebody was videotaping him with their cell phone camera because a rat was inside of the subway car and had made its way up to the seat, and this dude is sleeping. So the rat crawls up the front of his shirt up onto his neck and wakes the guy up. And he freaks out. He screams. He's terrified. And it was filmed by this dude named Anthony Lynn, who uploaded the video to his Instagram account. And it's not funny. It's not cool at all. It's not. Dude, what are you doing? Video. All it shows is what a meathead you are. Because if you see a rat and the guy's asleep, you want to wake him up and you want to do the right thing. It's an empty subway car, too, as well. Not videotape it because you think it's funny and then upload it to Instagram when this guy screams because he's got a rat crawling on him. I'm sorry. That's me. I would have never done it. There you go. Man, have I just turned into my dad? I don't want to be that guy, but you know what I'm saying. Check this out. The Russian subsidiary of Anheuser-Busch, it's called InBev, Russian, has had double-digit boosts in sales of Budweiser, despite a declining beer market. Bud has made significant gains in Russia, becoming the country's third most popular beer last year. At the same time, American brews over here are struggling in our own market. Bud's growth owes much to increased sponsorship of sporting events, namely Russia's soccer. The 2017 Football Confederation Cup and the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia are sponsored by Anheuser-Busch, and they're getting Budweiser flooded all over Russia. And it just goes to show you, advertising works. The Hacking Collective Anonymous says it has shut down more than 20 Angolan government websites in response to the jailing of 17 kids. That's right, activists. Many of the sites were still down 20 hours after the Portuguese branch of the group claimed the cyber attack in a post on its own Facebook page. Prominent rapper Luati Biero and 16 others were convicted Monday of planning a rebellion against Angolan President Jose Eduardo dos Santos. Now, the activists say they are peaceful, and they have called on the veteran leader just to step down. They received jail sentences, are you ready? 2 to 8 years. And they are kids. All right. Thank you, Richard Dolan. Absolutely fascinating conversation tonight and a fantastic week here on Fade to Black. And just let us know, who do you want to come back for a full night of Q&A? I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Richard Dolan. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show's produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas, and Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by